Open spot from above, but he jumps down! The Maestro will shoot away at the wall. This is a bad decision, but oh my God! How does this happen?
The fuse is being planted right now near Island, and they're Fred! What is happening? Fred! The free kick from Fred! Vitality take it!
Welcome to the 6th Major Parade!
To push from the opposite end, but Goga's ready. The bearing 9 in hand, he goes in for one. He finds the 2, Goga takes them down!
Skies will take out Slash though, and look at this, Eclipse with 1-2 for Eclipse! Oh, this is winnable, they will need to defuse, and the time running out, but Eclipse, he'll trade! But Rogue will take it! A trade to finish things off! How does this happen?
1v2, he finds one more, that's a line, but no, Lucky wins it out! Lucky does it, deep secret! The win, 2-0 against the hometown heroes.
The pre-fire comes to Necrox, but he missed it!
And now PZD looks for a fight, but it's just him left. EG is 1 kill away from guaranteeing North America a spot in the finals, and they will do it! Drone from his teammate will help, but look at this. Now Pegu working out. Gonna go for another. Yes!
Please welcome in our semi-final, Evil Geniuses.
Slash all on his own now versus the 2 PMM in hand in 10 seconds. The Evil Geniuses, they secure it. And we'll have it, the rematch from 6th Invitational 2018.
It's time for the grand final! EG! G2 Esports!
Extra gas scanner, sure shot in the back. Jonas again, the 2nd kill. One more up top. He finds him. Pengu gets the kill on Necrox. And Derek Gates, what's going happening? EU close to getting the victory, and he goes down. G2 will take the win.
Stylish on the outside. savage on the inside. Legion by Lenovo.
Good evening, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you're tuning in from, or good morning,
Why not?
depending on where you're tuning in from. My name's Intero. I'm joined by Emzo, and we are restarting Latin America. Second half of the season. We're in week number 8 here for LATAM.
Yeah.
We've got 3 matches for you today because ahead of time, Team Liquid versus Boot Camp has been rescheduled.
Oh my. Well, hopefully not for too long. Of course, we want to see the results of that, but nonetheless, still 3 good games. I think there's a good chance it might get played tomorrow, assuming it doesn't get further rescheduled from there. Thankfully, they don't have I don't think the Hurricanes headed at them, right? So hopefully they'll have a chance to play that.
It's like the East Coast with like South Carolina, North Carolina, etc. Stay safe, by the way, for all of those that are affected by that. We have, just if you tuned into our broadcast yesterday, we're going to do it again today, a new content patch being released by Ubisoft called Grim Sky. And you might be wondering what that is. Well, it's one American operator, and it's one British operator. I think it's Scotland Yard and Delta Force being represented by 2 operators. Also, a map rework of Hereford Base, and then a site change for Consulate, adding a 4th site.
A lot of good stuff in this. I mean, obviously the usual fixes and other tweaks and whatnot, especially the whole recoil system that they talked a lot about leading up to this, trying to fix the way that was lined up. So that was, I guess, a big deal in and of itself for all of Pro League.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things that came into this patch. We'll try to go through them as quickly as we can, as to not bore you too much. Clash is the first operator of the day that we're going to be looking at. The very first shield operator on defense. Joining us from Scotland Yard, she's got some interesting things about her kid.
Yeah, definitely something that I think a lot of pro players were looking forward to was another shield, but this time on defense. So I think a lot of excitement over that. Actually, surprisingly, we saw a lot of it played in Montreal. But that shield is a little bit different than Montaigne's. It is see-through, but it has a little taser on it, which is nice. Also, no primary weapons, just kind of 2 pistols, although one is interesting in that it's the first 2-shot burst fire, and that is the SP SMG-9. And then, of course, impact nades and barbed wire, very useful for rotating and slowing people down. So they designed this operator to be pretty good in terms of being able to move around the map, see things, slow people down as much as possible, and work with their teammates. Of course, that means the speed is slow, but the armor is heavy as well.
Also has the fastest weapon switch speed in the game. The ability to put the shield away and pull out either that pistol or the SMG.
Probably end up seeing that tonight.
Very, very quickly. Able to do that and then try and fight back. Weak in one-on-one engagements, very strong when surrounded by a good team. Joining her in this patch is Maverick. He's a hard breacher as well, but he's a bit of a hybrid hard breacher in the sense that, yes, his gadget, which is that exothermic torch, or Surrey as it's called, can cut through the reinforced walls, but your primary usage of it is not going to be to open up a way into the site, similar to how Hibana or Thermite work.
Yeah, interestingly enough, in theory, he could actually cut open more holes than Hibana or Thermite, and that you could potentially do 4, but he has a fuel system that limits how you use it in terms of how big those holes are, and it also takes quite a bit of time. He's mostly useful for setting up a lot of little, as we like to call them, murder holes, to be able to get some good peeks on in, as well as do some destruction, stop people like Bandit or Mute from denying walls being open. So I like to think of him as a half of a hard breacher most of the time, and then he's usually support for it, somewhat replacing what Thatcher does occasionally. But he also has a very nice M4. The AR also very good, but a bit of a DMR. So that one is the one-shot, single-shot fire, but it's fairly strong, but not enough to use it, I don't think, at the moment, unfortunately.
I mean, it has very minimal recoil, which really works in its favor, but its damage isn't as high as, say, the SR-25 that brought along with the Blackbeard, but it's certainly a much better DMR than I would say. I would prefer it to Dokubi's, but Dokubi has to really run
no choice there.
Boss G, and it's definitely better than the DMR as well available to Twitch. Now, Consulate was mentioned earlier on. We've added a 4th, well, we haven't, but Ubisoft has added it.
We just got in there.
We got it. We did it ourselves earlier today. Consulate getting a brand new bomb site. So we'll be expanding from 3 to 4 sites. As you can see, the first bomb is going to be downstairs in server. The other bomb is going to be up in Tellers. So a split bomb, which isn't all that common on a lot of maps, but Consulate will be adding not just a 4th, but also its first split site to join the 2nd floor bomb site up in console office, main floor and lobby, and then as well the one downstairs in garage.
Makes a little sense in that you have 3 hatches right by it as well to be able to rotate down, but definitely a difficult bomb site we've rarely seen so far.
Yeah, we saw it in Millennium versus Cloud9 at DreamHack Montreal, but that was really the only real take we had.
Give it time.
It was a really interesting match to watch.
And they actually did win that, so there's potential there.
Defense did win that side. That is absolutely correct. As well, Hereford being reworked. So every single patch, a new map is introduced to the game, but Hereford has been reintroduced. The original Rainbow Six map has seen a brand new coat of paint and a bit of tweaks and changes. Not that different in the basement and the main floor. The basement saw a chunk of changes made to it. The main floor, very similar. But that second and third floor of Hereford is very, very different. And as you can see in the bottom left, not currently in the Pro League rotation.
Yeah, as opposed to Consulate, which we didn't take out, that's going to stay in with the additional bomb site because there wasn't a significant amount of changes to say, oh, this is too new of a map to introduce mid-season. But Hereford is going to stay out for now. Who knows, maybe there's potential to bring it in the next season. But in the meantime, you can obviously play it online and ranked, released, although I believe there might be some issues with the timer on that.
I know it's in ranked. I know there's also, it's in casual, and there's a dedicated casual playlist if you'd like to go in and take a crack at learning the new map. But in addition to the 2 new operators, the changes to Consulate, and the reintroduction of Hereford base, there were a couple other changes that happened. First and foremost, the biggest one has been the sight misalignment fix. So it was discovered early on by Ubisoft that sometimes where you were shooting, your reticle would go in one direction and your actual bullet would go in another. They've changed that now. The sight misalignment has been fixed, which means that your bullets will go exactly where they are intended to do so. With that, there's been a whack of changes to recoil, which we'll get to in just a second, but at the top of your screen, they'll say hatch reinforcements will now allow for partial destruction. The way it used to work is that you could use 1 X-Kairos pellet of Hibana's 6 to open up a hatch. That's not the case anymore. You now need 4 of the 6. It was originally set to 6. On the test server, it was lowered to 4 because I think they realized that with the way that the X-Kairos interact with the hatches on top of the ability to possibly trick it, that 4 is a bit more of a sensible number. So if only 3 pellets go off, you can see through the hatch through 3 small destructed holes, but the hatch otherwise will stay intact.
Also, it is going to make a difference in terms of speed of opening the hatch and safety and doing so, because of course if you had to land all 6 right on the hatch, that would make it so you'd have to spend quite a lot of time aiming, but this still is going to slow people down in that you can't just hit 1, as you mentioned, so that will be a difference. But if it goes off with less than the amount, it will still go off and they will open up holes that you can use to shoot people through that. And then of course you can have one of the other hard breachers as well help open that up. You could have Maverick, for example, come up and finish the job, Hibana do it himself, or Thermite. So there are plenty of ways to deal with hatches now, especially if you don't want to drop them.
Right. So we'll see if that has any real bearing whatsoever. We saw it even on yesterday on Clubhouse. 1 impact grenade took out 3 of the 6, and it did not open the kitchen hatch in the Mouse Cloud9 game. So there you have it. As well, just to rush through these, Glaz's sniper rifle no longer able to destroy Castle's armored panels. Used to be able to shoot it and break the panel, but now it will just continuously shoot holes in the actual panel. So you'll need to either melee it, or you'll need some kind of soft destruction or hard destruction to open it up as well. Zofia, just a bit too much utility. 1 of her concussion grenades has been taken away. It'll drop her down from 4 to 3. Still has those 2 impact nades with the lifeline. And then, last but not least, that SMG recoil rework. All recoils changed. A number of guns, almost laser beams now. Buck's C8 is assault rifle, for example. A lot of people said that it was very difficult to control. There's not that bobble after the first couple shots anymore. As well, Jaeger's 416 carbine is now back to being one of the best weapons in the game because it has next to no recoil. But I was noted on that panel, the SMG-11, the SMG-12, and the Bearing 9 saw a substantial amount of recoil, making them much more difficult to use than before.
It's making the operators that would normally be able to bring the SMG-12, bringing the CZ instead, which is, I think, been working out for a lot of people, despite the fact that the iron sights are a little cumbersome to deal with. But nonetheless, it has kind of been, you probably see a little bit of both. Some people switched over, some people haven't. Bearing 9, however, sometimes hard to deal without. You'll probably still see it, but I think some of the pros have learned to deal with that. Same with the SMG-11 as well. Smoke, probably not going to be running a lot of the FMG, although you never know, maybe Liquid will.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a number of teams, and speaking of Liquid, why would Liquid run the FMG? Well, there happens to be a new program that has been introduced. It was mentioned just a couple months ago, Team Skins. And as you can see on your screen right here, there are 10 teams that have gotten their skins put on their favorite guns. Vitality, Rogue, Team Liquid, Immortals. We'll list the 10 teams, you'll see it in just a second, and as was noted on the screen there, 30% revenue share. When you purchase one of these team skins, 30% of the money raised from the Rainbow Six credits, those are the 10 teams,
30% will go back into the prize pool. So it's essentially a way for you to be able to increase the prize pool that teams will be competing for at the Invitational in February.
Yeah, I definitely recommend people go check those out, but there is charms as well. So make sure to go into shop and then bundles, and they're right there at the top.
Yeah. So what's happening today? Here's our run of show. Ninjas in Pajamas versus Black Dragons will start things off. Team 1 and Pain Gaming up next. FaZe Clan versus Immortals. These will all be rematches as we are now in the second half of the season. All of these teams have played each other once. We'll get to go through it again. This will actually be a repeat of the first week as well. And we also have some standings for you today just to look through exactly what we're looking at. Team Liquid and Boot Camp will not be in action today. That's 1 and 5, but the other teams will all be playing. We'll be starting off with teams 7 and 8, and Nip and Black Dragons, and look at that. They'll be fighting for every point they can get. Need to remind you that the team that finishes in 8th is auto-relegated, and that's Black Dragons in that position right now.
Yeah, and they were the team that came in through relegation as it was because they were a Challenger League team at the time. They since rebranded and are not doing as hot. I felt like they started off to kind of a good start, but then just have really been struggling since then, unfortunate. But Nip also started off very slow and managed to bring it back a little bit, somewhat reminiscent of what happened with Cloud9. Somewhat different circumstances, but in that case, they also had a slow start and are trying to make up for it. Thankfully, 7 weeks to do so.
Black Dragons was known as Red Devils. They beat Red Canids in the Battle of the Color just to see who would be the best red team. And I think Red Devils were successful there. And then they're the only team in Latin America that actually doesn't have a victory yet. So Red Devils, now known as Black Dragons, still maintaining that color theme, just changing from the color red to the color black, and now going from a devil to a dragon. I don't know. That's kind of a linear move. What's more dangerous, the devil or a dragon? I don't know. Dragons are pretty scary, but
Devil riding the dragon?
There you have it.
All right.
So if we have them, we'll throw up some rosters for you as well for these two teams just to continue onwards. And we'll look at Ninjas in Pajamas first. No changes here. Julio, Kamikaze, PZD, Psycho, and Wog. The only change that happened with Ninjas in Pajamas was their coach, Twister. Twister Man, as he was known as, dropped from the team. So Nip is currently seeking out a coach, if I remember correctly. They have not filled that role. So that's the only roster change in them. As for Black Dragons, there actually has been a change. Drunks, Smalls, Levy, RDZ, and Slash. Now both RZD and Levy are going to be running with little interesting names in the game. But you might have recognized that Docky, who was playing on Red Devils when they qualified before getting picked up by Black Dragons, he's no longer there. Small is in his place.
It looked like they also had maybe added someone else to their roster, so I'm not sure if one of them might be a sub and one of them a permanent, but Small is definitely playing tonight. So whether he's starter or sub, we'll see how he does.
Yeah. Hopefully he'll have a profound impact on that team because they desperately needed a shakeup. So I mean, like I said, they're the only team right now that doesn't have a victory. And that is obviously something that they're going to want to try to do. As you mentioned, Nip had a very, very slow start. They weren't performing, I think, as well as a lot of people anticipated, especially given that they've been one of the best teams in the region and consistently one of the top teams in the world, placing well every time that they end up in a LAN series. But then they come to the Paris Major, and they're the only Latin America team that makes it out of group stages. This could be Nip seeing a resurgence as we enter the latter half of this season.
There are a lot of changes, of course, as we just went over, so opportunity knocks.
Yeah. We have a map veto system for you now just to see exactly where we will and won't play. Nip will ban first, then we'll hop over to BD, back to Nip, back to BD, and we'll end up with one of the maps selected, Oregon and Villa. Unable to be played because if you recall at the end of last season, Villa was played. I believe it was by Nip. So we'll see Border and Consulate go. Border being one of the most played maps in Latin America this time around. Coastline gone, leaving us with Clubhouse and Bank, and what is typically a staple of Latin America will be Bank.
This should be a good one between these guys. Obviously, nothing's changed on that one as opposed to Consulate, but there are new operators to deal with that I feel like could factor in this. I believe in Montreal we did see a little bit of play with them on this map, although I wouldn't say this was the map that we saw. A lot of them definitely potential here, though, as Latin America does like shields, so I think there's a good chance we could see that on defense.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see shields get run here, especially when you've got Ninjas in Pajamas in action. Both, we saw two separate players, not just Julio, but I think it was also PZD playing the Blitz, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Somebody's obviously going to fact check me. But we poll you to see what you think of this particular matchup. How is it going to end up? And unsurprisingly, Nip with quite a large lead there, 67-24 to 9.
I think that seems about right given the stats, but at the same time, you know, lots of opportunity to change things up, and we don't really know how Small performs. So if he really shows up, I feel like we've seen a lot of new players on teams really showing up. It's just been the case for the most part. Like, you bring someone new in because they're really good. And I guess team chemistry hasn't been the biggest issue in terms of stopping these new teams from doing well. So I expect big things of him.
Paula
Like
got picked up by Boot Camp and then has been one of their best players over the last couple weeks. And he was a huge part of why they almost made the quarterfinals in Montreal just this past weekend. So don't ever underestimate the impact that one pickup can make.
Just ask Cloud9.
A team. Just ask Cloud9. Mark the Shark coming in and they don't win DreamHack Montreal unless they pick up Mark. First ban is going to go to Nip, and they're going to take out Hibana. I remarked on this yesterday when I was casting with Michael that we don't see a lot of hard breachers being banned anymore, especially in Montreal. Typically, Lion ends up being banned, and then some other utility-based operator usually ends up being a counter ban. This time around, no Hibana on Bank is going to be very interesting to watch.
Well, no Lion ban, actually, though. That is something we've seen. Like you mentioned, a lot of Lion bans. Glaz is the one that seemed to have fallen off in Montreal. In this case, though, neither of those coming out. Also, that means Maverick is still available here.
And Maverick didn't really have that much of an impact yesterday.
No.
Neither did Clash, but this has been typically a Clash-friendly map. A number of North American teams at Montreal was running Clash, but
not today.
Not today. Ying and Clash both being taken out by Black Dragons, and you know that Ying is played predominantly by Nip on attack, so it's a smart counter ban there. Though I am surprised they're going to let the Glaz go through when we look at the way that Nip plays, especially given that Glaz can be so powerful on Bank in particular.
And his recoil has gotten just better rather than worse.
Unless you're running a silencer.
That's true. That hopefully they realize that.
Which Nip does.
That's true. They did that specifically just for them.
Well,
actually, wait, wasn't it their gun skin on the OTS?
That is correct.
Remember correctly too. So
of course, I mean,
that's a good point.
Name a Glaz on Ninjas in Pajamas. Name a more iconic duo. It's Psycho that usually runs that Glaz and does so very proficiently. And then when Glaz gets banned, he usually just runs Ash. So there you have it.
There's the Maverick, assuming he doesn't get 6th pick, as well as that Lion and a Montaigne. So at least a shield coming out on attack. That Capcan just looking like a bait from Wag, as is the Montaigne. But that means the Maverick's going to stick. We'll see if that's impactful. No, Wag's going to stick it.
Capcan's not a bad choice, but it looks also like Nip might have changed up some of their roles here, putting Kamikaze on the smoke. All right, and you'll probably have, I'm assuming, Wag will have to rotate alongside PZD. Now, one of the strongest criticisms against Ninjas in Pajamas is the way that Wag will often... Oh, it appears that we're going to have a remake here as Psycho has either crashed or... I'm not entirely certain, but... it'll likely come back to us.
All right.
All right. So you hear the anguish, the cries of anguish and screams, screams of everybody.
Those ones are from us.
Yeah, those were not our cries of anguish. So, I don't know. But anyway.
All right.
Hello. Nice to see everybody.
Welcome back.
Hopefully you had a great time.
Well, at least I enjoyed the band phase.
Great casting with you.
Yeah,
great
no, it was good.
Great day. Take care.
All right. Well, hopefully it
there will
won't take
probably
too
be
long.
people who actually like turn it off.
Yeah, no, please don't. Please don't.
They'll turn in and just be like, "Wow, it's already over."
Yeah.
No.
I have a feeling this will be a little bit longer than that, despite the postponed match. But either way, that is a one of the reasons it might be longer is some starts like that. But at least we got a taste of what they're going to be doing. They are going to be starting down on lockers. Some interesting picks coming out from that. I imagine they have to pick the same operators, but I'm not sure if they necessarily have to 6-pick it the same way. But they have to have the same end result. And I don't think there was a chance to see what the 6 picks actually were from the other team in terms of droning them out or anything. So
no, it wasn't. I don't even think it came that long.
Yeah.
There was a call for a remake almost immediately.
So no need to try and bait it a different way or anything like that.
Yeah.
I would imagine if you want to still not reveal it, you want to still do it the exact same way you did. 6-pick it the same way.
I noticed that it's like I have. If I don't wear this correctly, look at. If I don't wear it correctly, you can see like a little bit of my skin.
Ooh.
So I have to be very vigilant.
That's fun.
Because I always want to look good for camera. You know, like I never want to look bad.
It works.
Who wants to look bad?
Who?
Who wants to look bad? Not me.
All
Genetics already make me look bad. So I try to build on it as best I can.
Well, you know
also, is this blazer new, by the way?
No, I think it was from a little while ago. It's just sometimes it only comes out with the blue shirt.
It looks nice.
So, thank you.
I like it.
Appreciate it.
It's like a pewter kind of like bluish pewter mix. It's nice. I like it.
Sometimes
Does that look nice?
my inability to discern different colors like that makes me feel colorblind because I have like the primaries and secondary range, and that's about it. So it's blue and bluish gray.
So fun story. I did an escape room for the first time in my life.
Oh, and you made it out, obviously.
Like 2 weeks ago. Well, I mean, it's not like you're doomed forever. Could you imagine if escape rooms were actually just a way of
Just
like
turns into Saw.
like culling the population? Like
Yeah.
you just go into it and it's like you have to sign a waiver like you might never return.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if
That
I'm
would
gonna
make it
play
more
this.
exciting, I'll be honest.
I went to an escape room and it was like this multi-stage process, and at the very end, you get in the final room, you have to defuse the bomb.
Oh, seems appropriate.
And it's like the person who was tasked in the group with defusing the bomb was colorblind, and this wasn't a thought process. Oh no. Going in, so there's like everybody's doing their jobs, and it's like connect blue A with green B in the dark, and they're just like, yeah, I have no idea how to do this.
Yeah.
And guess what? We died.
All right.
The bomb blew up.
We see that a lot in this game, though.
So I can somewhat sympathize with your inability to see certain colors. I'm like you know, like the 64-bit like Windows 98. I can see like all the colors.
Well, that's why I was glad when they just made Capcom's lasers just invisible.
Just get rid of them.
Just get rid of them.
Because I mean,
no more
it was,
colorblind problem.
It was a real thing. Like, and then colorblind players playing with ACOG in general. Like, if you have issues seeing like red or different colors like that, it can be very difficult for you to see that tip of the ACOG, which is the little red arrow, on certain surfaces, and that's something that you don't really take into consideration for a lot of players here. And yeah, Capcom was a good example of that. When that Capcom laser being red, there were genuinely players who could not see that laser. For those of you that don't know, Capcom used to come with 3 EDDs, and they used to be lethal. So if you walked through one, you died immediately. No counterplay whatsoever. And they used to have a red laser that was visible, was way more visible at
You
the
also
start.
didn't used to be able to put them in multiple heights. They were
Yes.
just at
Yeah,
the ground
you just
level,
gotta put
that's
them at the
it.
ground level. And a lot of people actually couldn't see them. So you'd be wandering through and you'd be like, oh, this doorway looks good. Boom, I'm dead.
Still have claymores with the same laser, though. Ish.
Yes.
So.
That's true, yeah. It's the little
Cafe
little
stairs and all that
faint
fun.
Red, yeah. and I mean-
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what back in the early days when you play Capcom, you'd set it up so you'd be like, oh, it's a red floor. They won't see this.
Seriously, there were certain maps, that would.
Cafe is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Half the cafe floor is like a brown red.
Yeah. You're like, all right, it's
Set it
Cafe
up and you're just
Capcom's
like-
map.
No one's gonna see this.
We need some more invisible traps. Oh wait, we already have a ton.
Yeah.
We got goo mines and
Now they're literally invisible.
yeah.
He has pots of syringes filled with goo, and also they have a cloaking device.
I mean,
Why doesn't he just cloak himself?
Oh.
If he has the technology to cloak 8 little canisters, why can't he just cloak enough portions of his body?
Is it like a super vigil,
Yeah,
basically?
the technology's there.
We
We
must
let's
build
be
it.
honest.
Yeah.
The technology's there.
Maybe it's
We just don't want to spend a lot of money.
we know there's a battery in there to cloak it. Maybe it would take a really big battery backpack to do a whole human. And Lion's got the biggest backpack, and he's got to keep that.
Is it bigger than Maestro's?
I don't know. I just thought as I was saying that, I realized Maestro's might be pretty big as well.
Maestro's is
but he's a
huge.
big guy already.
Maestro looks like Santa Claus with like the sack slung over his
I hope
shoulder.
there is a skin for that.
A Santa Claus skin?
Yeah, that would be amazing for Christmas if there was that.
Would you buy it?
I still occasionally
I'd
run
buy
the
it.
wrapping paper skin on my guns.
I'm mad that I don't have that.
All right, well,
Came in too late. All I could get was that sleigh
this
ride
is,
elf.
this is what you get when
which,
you
by the
cast
way,
me as the
great
idea phase.
Great skin. This is
Yeah.
exactly what it is. If you ever need to talk to Devin or I, we're big on skinergy.
Yeah.
If you're not fragging out in style, are you really fragging out at all?
Yeah, you might as well frag yourself at that point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's not advocate for that.
All right.
All right, we're gonna go downstairs. Also, it looks like Wog actually put the elite skin on Capcom. He didn't have the elite skin on the first time.
He's like,
Now he
wait a
does.
minute,
Now
hold
he's
up.
like, wait a minute, I can
Yeah.
play in style. Speaking of skinergizing,
Yeah. Well, they are going to go with the same 6-pick as well, looks like. Although Capcom doesn't need to 6-pick to
yeah,
Capcom again.
he 6-picked off Capcom onto Capcom.
It's like he 6-picked the skin at least.
To locate and defuse as
Well,
many
either way, we'll
bombs
see
as
where
they
he
can.
sets those up.
Oh, that's
He's
a
got
good way
5
of
of
putting
them
it.
now.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. He 6-picked the skin.
All right. I'm waiting for them to let us 6-pick bomb sites and then reveal those as well, too. That just seems like something they would do.
Another change that's been made for people that might not be tuning in, you see in the left side of your screen says Evil Eye. All of the individual gadget icons have been completely redone. So there was a period of time where most of the gadget icons were the exact same as the operator icons. So, for example, Thermite, his icon was literally just 2 of those breach,
10 seconds left
holes,
before
or
insertion.
it's because it looks like a wall with a hole in it. Same with Levi running the
5 seconds to insertion.
or Levy technically. I guess it would be Is it Levy or Levi?
Depends on the brand awareness.
Yeah, is he just a really big fan of a certain type of pants? Or
Could be.
is he more like a levy as in like what an actual levy functions as?
Either way, though, he's useful. That's important.
Either way, yeah. So anyway, they've changed all of these icons, just as a side note. So breaching torch, you'll see it throughout the course of every single game now that there's the Texan Dynamite, the exothermic charge now. They all have distinct and individual icons to make them easier to identify and spot. It started to happen around Dokkaebi, if I remember correctly, and Zofia. They all look different. And then it was really the first look of a difference in gadgetry versus operator icon.
That one's still the one kind of throwing me off a little bit just because, I don't know, it looks like something I would see on the internet. Some kind of internet icon. But either way, speaking of seeing things, PZD sneaks right up on there, shoots him right in his Inox.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right in between the Inox.
Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't see those footprints coming.
He lines him up and knocks him down, and that Jaeger has done a great job of being able to open up that first pick on that open hatch, and now Drunks is going to tag himself in. Also roaming is Wog, so that was what I'd said. Both Wog and PZD roaming, just a bit of a change as Kamikaze is going to be more on site, but Wog is still just inside of this lobby playing now by Tellers, and what a play that was.
At this rate, no one's going to have a chance to hit those Capcan traps. Also, the Lion, I don't believe, got to use any of the EE1Ds, which probably would have saved maybe one of their lives.
It doesn't look like, I don't think any of the three operators got to use their gadget at all, in fact.
He put the Inox on for half a second and then gone. Yeah,
didn't really get to use it that much. He couldn't see that one coming.
No. Well, we'll see though if Drunks can try and help save this, because of course he's going to have to frag out. I mean, Thermite can still frag to an extent, but against 5 here, it's going to be up to Drunks, let's be honest. We'll see where they're going to run into them. But it looks like a lot of the NIP players have pulled back a bit now that they've gotten a good taste of blood upstairs.
Yeah, this is something that is pretty part and parcel with the way that NIP plays. The Wog will just miss. Small with 1 HP, that's a heartbreaker. Capcan having a very deceptively good weapon at his disposal. Now, there's 45 seconds left. There is still time to reset Small, but there's no real utility that Drunks can have. Small is going to, Small is going to end up losing to Wog anyways. He walks right into the Capcan trap, and that's going to leave Drunks as last man alive, 1v4. I mean, he's going to have to fetch that diffuser and go downstairs to CCTV, and NIP is still able to roam. Even if they want to consolidate on site, they've still got the manpower to be able to try to keep the team alive. An engagement between Kamikaze, the Smoke, and Drunks will cost Drunks to lose all but 20 of his health. The Smoke will die, but you've still got the Zofia left, who will have to clutch in the next 10 seconds or so. Evil Eye and Yokai still in play. Drunks will drop towards the hatch and CCTV. Might go for a plant here, but no, it's PZD who started things off and will also end things. He'll get the bookend kills, and Drunks will be taken out of the fight. Yep, winning round number 1.
Good to see he didn't give up, at least. Definitely put in an effort there, tried to get to site. But such low health just did not work. I do feel like, though, had they reset Thermite, he might have survived at least one of those Capcan traps. Probably would have made a big difference in the end, though. But a good start for NIP, just eliminating those. With those roamers, it was... You know, you set up all these Capcan traps, and they purposely made some changes to Capcan to make him a more effective roamer by putting him to a 2-speed 2 armor, and I think you see the benefit of that right there, catching him by surprise. And Bank's a big map, and that's why you bring that Jackal. But when Jackal's the first to fall, it's going to be face-checking. Obviously, that was what happened to Jackal in the first place, and that's usually why you let your entry fragger kind of step in ahead of you, clear out those footprints. Fortunately for him, got a little greedy. See if he doesn't make that mistake again this round, but he's going to have to go for a different bomb site this time. Can we tell us? Oh, there we go. There's the glass.
We were waiting for it, but I mean, it's Levi who's going to play it, right? It's not Black Dragons as we'd expected them to possibly go with. So.
Maybe after the side switch. Of course, they can't play Glass at the moment.
Glass is a good map, or Glass is a good, operator on this map, no matter what. Bank has the distinction of being, in terms of square footage, one of the largest maps in the entire game. I believe the largest in the Pro League rotation as it stands right now. I would actually like to see if Theme Park is larger than Bank, but I think in terms of square footage, Bank is the largest map out of the maps that are available in this pool, which means that Glass gets a huge amount of value out of his gadget because he's designed to take long-range engagements. He often will not thrive in a close quarters situation, which is where most of the fighting happens in Rainbow Six. But on Bank, you can take those long sites, like put a Glass up on parking garage, and you can control so much of the front of Tellers as well as lobby, and then even the cutoff up to banana upstairs. It's a good use of a glass, and we'll see what Levi is going to be able to do with it and how exactly he's going to pull the glass out.
It's also a reason we see a lot of Doc Rook play on this map, but they already have 2 ACOGs on their defense as well between Maestro and Echo. They will also be able to play those long angles against him, so assuming they can hear that telltale gun sound, they might be able to identify where he's at, peeking, while they're at it. Thankfully for them, though, the Maverick lost his smoke on the TTS, and so no longer is able to help smoke for Glaz, which will make a difference. But they are running basically the same attacker lineup. Otherwise, just not going to have the ability to find those footprints, which I find ironic, given the fact that was probably what they needed the most last round. But Drunks not having to, or not really staying on top of his job, just watches his friend die.
And that's Wog back on the smoke, so this just could simply be a difference in whatever site they want to play as. We're so used to Wog playing that smoke.
Yeah.
And you've got, Kamikaze, who was playing the smoke last time.
He did die last time, so.
Yeah, I mean, Wog did die last time around.
I mean, the smoke as well. I guess they both did, huh?
Well, Kamikaze died as the final 20 seconds as he got really aggressive. And look at that. See, there's the recoil that you can see of that suppressor. It just bobbles right up unless you can control it and get that second shot down early. Drunk circling towards that electrical closet. You'll see the Legion of Kamikaze throw out a goo mine, but won't bother to recontest that point, waiting to see if the Legion is going to work towards the main door of conference room. But Drunks will now have the aid of an EOD, and look at that. He'll just take Wog down to next to no HP. Might have even gotten the smoke down and will now finish him off. So you burned one of the EODs from the Lion, and you managed to secure a kill with it as the smoke was playing and more of an anchor position upstairs above the site.
Pretty typical for Wog, though. He does the same thing on Oregon. One of the most well-known roaming smokes. He usually makes it work, though, and that's going to be a bit of a big loss, but they have the Echo still left.
This is all Drunks. He just beheads Kamikaze, and you've lost both of your operators that were playing up in that conference room. A little piece of debris will fly over top of the Echo, and they'll think that there's somebody there to bother to engage. But no, there's nobody at all. The second loss for Black Dragons is that's Reds, but Drunks will pick up his 3rd kill as PZD has gotten a kill, but then traded right off, leaving just Julio and Psycho as last men alive for Black Dragons. The wall that leads into that office get blown wide open, but after Small is successful in exothermic charging it, he will get taken down by Psycho, and that's that suppressed MP5, able to get a kill. Equalizes at 2v2.
Well, Lee's job partially done, but that also reveals to Nip where they're planning to enter from likely, and that smoke going to give that away, but Glaz able to use it.
And I mean, how many times have we just seen a Glaz use that smoke to take up so much of the lane and just continue to walk in unassailed? Position of Psycho is spotted by both Levi and Drunks. And now it's all up to Julio, the man who's been responsible for so many clutches and just walks away with kills that he might not deserve, but it's very difficult for him to be able to kill an enemy that he doesn't even see. And there's Levi, who goes for the full rotate and lands enough shots to fell the Maestro and tie us up at 1 apiece.
Well, unfortunately for Nip, that defense is a lot more predictable in terms of roam. You're mostly going to be in a certain couple areas, mostly in the CEO and electrical closet area, janitor closet area, as well as down in the archives itself and tellers. So that didn't leave a lot of flexibility. They didn't have anyone trying to play, say, for example, server stairs come from a flank or someone hanging out in kitchen open area. Because they just weren't playing a lot of spread out defense, they weren't able to surprise as well they were the first round. And that led to a lot of early deaths, although Wag did get that first one to start off with. That was a good initial kill. Again, with the smoke, with a shotgun, playing very, very aggressively. We'll see if they can pull off this Glaz a second time as they are going to 6th pick it again for the same bomb site. So this is where it comes down to Nip trying to adjust a little bit, but they're still going to have to deal with that Glaz, and hopefully, for their sake, try and pick them off early, because that's really going to be a big problem for, as you saw last round.
As in their Fnatic game, as they played them twice in Paris, and as in their match against Evil Geniuses, Nip thrives off the ability to discombobulate its opponents by rotating all over and just swarming teams on defense. And if their roam game isn't able to see any success, then Nip really struggles, especially if they can't run up the score on defense. Now, Bank is an interesting map because it's every single map has the same distinction, but Bank, more than anything, is typically very susceptible to operator bans to see which side ends up doing so well. Nip will usually win more defensive rounds than they won't because, like I said, that free-flowing roam that they have is usually able to surprise a lot of attackers because there isn't always a consistency to it. It's unpredictable, it can be all-consuming, and if they're unable to get a pick or two, then that spells trouble. And they've been feasting off the fact that Black Dragon's entry has been disconnected from one another both rounds now. Even though Black Dragons did win the last round, it was only because Drunks had such a magnificent solo effort with that one EOD from the line.
Yeah.
But it also didn't appear that he was really getting droned in, so that was mostly just him and his game sense carrying him through that round. The rest of the team, the entry was not as strong as it could have been, and if it wasn't for Drunks being able to play very well that round, it could have quite easily gone in favor of the opponents in NIP.
Yeah, they're definitely relying a lot on that line to be able to help with these pushes. And interesting, you saw the line actually fighting an angle outside, which he gets a successful kill from instead of playing as the having the glass out there. But it seemed to work out. He has that ACOG, managed to make it work. They also had another change of bringing the Thatcher this time. You just heard one of his EMPs go off as they are trying to at least clear some utility here, try to make sense. But there's 2 ADSs on that wall directly to Kamikaze's left there. So if they can read into that and clear those out, they will be able to huck a lot of grenades in at him. But he also has the escape hatch.
Yeah, and you've got Kamikaze going to be the big focal point here as they circle the wagons around him. He's got PZD if need be to tag in, who might actually be able to catch the Zofia off guard. But no, the Zofia's looking in that direction. PZD just above the head of Drunks. And Drunks right now almost single-handedly responsible for all the success that Black Dragons is having. Slash will add to the kill count, though, with Kamikaze falling. And Julio and Psycho, who were last 2 alive for NIP last round, will find themselves in that same position.
Oh.
Beautiful shot from Julio, just waiting for Slash to push up. That hatch is such a strong place to play under, especially if you've got a great gun like the Alda at your disposal.
Well, hopefully for him, he managed to get at least some utility taken out with his EMPs, because of course they don't have a hub on it open any kind of hatches or anything like that, and they are going to be dealing with Thermite trying to get into different areas to be able to open these things up. But the ACOG of Julio wins that fight.
And Drunks tries to dodge and weave it, but Julio just able to hammer down on that recoil and put what was a huge advantage for Black Dragons in a more manageable position. But now Julio is going to need to ace clutch, as Psycho will not find a kill before the Thermite of Smalls, the newest member of Black Dragons, gets his second kill, holding a tight angle as Levi just inside of the site. Julio would have to retake, and it's cut off. No avenue whatsoever to get back in, and that's going to be 2-1 for Black Dragons. It looks like we might have another rehost.
Unfortunately, they are losing WAG again early in the round, and I think that's making a difference here in terms of their ability to at least play back a little bit safer. I mean, obviously, Smoke is a little bit nerfed in terms of his SMG-11, but nonetheless, he's still a formidable foe. You see the shotgun. I think the shotgun gets a bit more play now that the SMG-11 is a little bit weaker, especially for players like Slash, like we saw last night. Different Slash, of course. Not to Slash on this team, Slash Hug, that is.
Yes.
But I think some players are kind of adapting to that. But because of that, we're seeing WAG go off early on that smoke both times, and I think it's costing them just a lot of time they're not able to burn against that push. You see, even when he's a roaming smoke, he'll still use the smoke sometimes to burn some time or give himself cover. But I think he's maybe playing a little over-aggressive as well. He might be a little antsy after these remakes.
Yeah, I'm not exactly certain the way that they're employing or deploying WOG. You know, he ends up actually being, in previous seasons, somebody who, well, he doesn't quite get a lot of kills. He actually survives a fair amount of rounds. We saw this, I remember in particular, in Sao Paulo when we were looking at the stat breakdown before they went to the finals against ENCE. He was staying alive almost every round because, like I said, NIP was able to get huge priority picks on the roam. Now, their roam hasn't quite been as successful through 3 rounds that we've seen. Did great on round number 1, looked to be doing okay on round number 2 before things collapsed because Drunks pushed in, got a kill after onto WOG as that EOD went off, and then walked in towards conference room and caught the Legion looking the wrong way. Swiftly picked up those 2 kills, which really set the rest of BD's push in motion. And then that round in particular, that was the most successful round we saw from Black Dragons because they were able to get the roamers out of action in under 90 seconds, which is the briskest pace.
Ironically enough, it's the 2 rounds without Jackal as well.
Yes.
Like, they got rid of the Jackal and then somehow cleared the roamers faster.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jackal was the first to die the first round, so what didn't have an impact on that round. But it does seem ironic that he switched over to the Glass and somehow they would do better on roam cleared. Not that the Glass hasn't been part of that, because he's putting a lot of fear in. Maybe it's just that they are not able to play the open areas the same way they would because of fear of the Glass in terms of his ability to catch them out and kill them. We actually did see, rather than the Glass, it was the Lion playing the long angle with ACOG. putting fear into the lobby, did manage to get a pick out of it as well. So maybe they're just being smarter about playing a lot of pressure from the sides, forcing rotates on those roamers, catching them on those rotates, and then able to execute from there.
It's also a very static lineup from NiP on the way that they're defending. The last couple times that we've seen them on bank, part of their arsenal has been Julio on that mute, not necessarily running the Maestro every single round, running an Alibi as well, running a Valkyrie too. Now, Valkyrie's not banned, Alibi's not banned, so both of these operators could come up at any point. Is this NiP trying to come up with new strats? Because, I mean, take a look at their most recent samples on bank. You know, they play in bank, okay, they lose to Immortals on bank 7-6 for the Paris quals. They end up playing Immortals again in the Paris Major quals. After both teams have qualified, they win 6-4. They 6-0'd Boot Camp on bank. They 6-4'd Fnatic on bank, and then they barely lost to EG on bank, one of EG's best maps. EG ended up winning that one 6-4. So this is traditionally a pretty good map. There's only been one loss on bank as NiP hasn't played bank in the Pro League this season. They've only had one loss on bank so far. That was to EG, which is not a bad team to lose to here.
Yeah.
If they lose to Black Dragons, they'd of course have their only play on bank in the season be a loss, and that would be a bit strange given how dominant they seem to have been on this map as of late.
Well, this is of course a case where you know, they might just not be adapted to the new operators, the new play style. All the recoils have changed, things like that. But at the same time, they had a good first round. They've only lost 2 rounds. They're only down 1 point. Definitely could see a comeback, but there's only so many rounds for side switch. Maybe attack will be their strength because, you know, we don't see from the stats necessarily which of those rounds that they won. It might have been a lot of attack-favored rounds. They might just be suffering on defense. And it could also just be, you know, the way Black Dragons are playing it is not what they're necessarily prepared for, and that could be a problem. Although there's a chance that Black Dragons could have watched some of those previous net matches, the ones that weren't part of Pro League, and caught how they were playing it, and are just catching them off guard.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. As we're just getting ready, we should be loading in just a moment. In the EG NiP matchup in particular, worth noting that the defense won most of those rounds. Rogue FaZe, when they played on bank, defense won most of those rounds. Fnatic versus NiP, defense won most of those rounds. So bank has been a map that at least consistently over the last little while, the Fnatic G2 or the G2 Secret matchup, G2 won most on defense as well. Same with Secret. So our sample size of bank over the last little while has mostly been defender favored, and by quite a large margin. It's been like 7-3, 6-4 for the defense. You know, so these are big scores getting run up here, and the fact that Black Dragons has already managed to take 2 on what should be the defense walking away with this. You know, NiP will need to win the next 2 in order to walk away with a defensive victory on this half, and that is already a pretty big accomplishment from Black Dragons to win 2, because then they have defense to look forward to.
Well, to be fair, they've only lost on one of the bomb sites. They've just played it twice. They won on lockers. They did just fine there. It's Tellers that seems to be the problem for them. And again, I think part of that is the way it constrains your roam. It doesn't literally constrain it, but by design of the way you have to defend that bomb site, you kind of have to play this sort of split, much the way you somewhat have to play ventilation on border. For example, you kind of have to have a couple people on that site, and then you kind of have to have a couple people right above it. Every once in a while, you'll have someone that'll play all the way down in the basement, especially if there's like a pulse or something like that, or a vigil roam, things like that. But in this case, they're playing a bit more around that, and you don't see them setting up a lot of utility for that. They're not setting up castle barricades or anything like that to slow them down. They're not. I mean, they are setting up at least things like being able to defend the janitor closet with ADSs, and Kamikaze doing a good job trying to defend that. But outside of a little bit of setup of hatches and some defensive utility, they're not doing anything to slow down that push. And you saw, as you mentioned, that swift execution that second round because of the predictability.
Right.
We know there's going to be someone playing that janitor closet. We know there might be someone in CEO. We know there's probably going to be 2 down in Teller's Archives itself, maybe 1 in each. We have a general idea where they're going to be. We don't need a Jackal to hunt them down. There's just maybe going to be one guy that's the wild card. Maybe it's just going to be that Maestro over an open area, something like that. And then, you know, maybe we could play the hatches to get an idea where he's at. And he did get the kill, then they kind of knew where he was at that point.
Yeah. Let's just break down some more stats here for you as we wait for this game to start up. In the last 2 matches that we saw Ninjas in Pajamas play on bank, both in their EG and Fnatic matchup, when NiP played on defense, they went CCTV Tellers, open area, CCTV Tellers. NiP only lost their first CCTV defense and then won all of their defenses after that. Tellers open, CCTV Tellers. Did not go to CEO at all.
That's BD's primary, so that should be interesting when the sides switch.
Yes.
Because that's the one they started on previously, so I gotta imagine that that would be their main one, but
Right.
they seem to know how to attack it fairly well, so that would make sense. Usually you know how to attack your own defense and vice versa.
Right. And then in the EG versus NIP matchup, obviously it went the full 10 yards as well, and that's a pun. NIP went CCTV tellers open, won all 3 of those sites, then went CCTV twice, and EG was able to thwart them both times that they returned to CCTV, and that was what ultimately ended up giving EG the victory, was because of those two unsuccessful defenses downstairs on the site that, as it stands right now, is the only one that NIP has been able to successfully defend. So tellers, both failed. We're going to load into the game in just a second, and I'd imagine that because CCTV lockers is open downstairs, they're going to go back down there.
I would think that would be the smart thing to do, or if you really actually do have a CEO defense now, you could go to that, but nonetheless, yeah, you should go back to the one that you won, especially when you're down a point at this point.
Yeah. So, I mean, CCTV, you can also go to open areas. We said CEO is not a site that we see get played by NIP with any real frequency.
I would take it over open area any day, though, at this point.
So we'll load into the game, and would you look at that? It's going to be locker CCTV downstairs.
There we go. This time, Drunk's going to be on Glaz. Now, he's been so successful on Zofia, it surprises me to see him switch places with Lev. But in this case, he is actually going to 6-pick over to Twitch, although it looks like he's reconsidering. No, he's going to stick it. Now, they were going to bring a castle for a minute there, but Wag's going to sneak off that as well. So hopefully those 6 picks work out for them. So they will have a bit more intel, though, with Wag's cameras to be on this roam. Going to have Kamikaze on that smoke. I think hopefully their roam should be effective again. I mean, it was fairly effective on the site last time. They're going to have the cameras and the extra intel. They also could even potentially use one of the yokais as a roam helper, assuming they don't want to play 2 on site, because they also will have the evil eyes, I imagine, on site as well. So plenty of ways for them to play this to support those roamers and repeat their success at their first round. And there is, again, no Jackal this time on the attack, although it didn't make much of a difference last time. But I got to imagine there's still potential use for it, because relying on the Lion for the pushes is not necessarily the best way to play this particular bomb site on attack. I mean, it is good to freeze them towards the end, especially if you want to go for the actual plant. You can freeze them, try and stick that plant down. But it's not like it's really hard for the smoke to peek out, especially when there is no glass here this time to hold them down on that.
Yeah. All right, so let's get underway here. Well, that glass has been such a force as well, so it is a bit of a surprise to see them not opt to run him there. But, I mean, they also didn't run him the first time.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's the case where it's Levy's been doing so good on it. It's weird to see him switch operators with Drunks, who's been successful on Zofia. Then again, if we haven't seen Levy Zofia, maybe he has a good one as well. But RDZ, again, he's doing really good on some of these initial kills.
Black Dragons is in 2 very fast and early kills. 40 seconds, you lose both your Echo and your Smoke, and now the Maestro. That's 3 anchors. This is a great read from Black Dragons to just attack the site as quickly as they can and put the 2 roamers in a very tense retake position. Easy plant for Small as he will just complete the defuse, meaning PZD and Wag in a 2v5. Will have 2 minutes to think on their sins, and Wog will start things off with a kill onto Drunks. But remember, these could be possibly impactless frags. Black Dragons will burn another EOD, and we'll see if PZD is able to finish off Slash. The Ash is down, and then complete it. What was a 2v5 is evened up more towards a 2v3, but this is where the real difficult task happens, as you've got ACOGs trained at the retake for the site. Levi will manage to finish off PZD before PZD can work in, and then Wog will try to walk through the door, but try is the key word there, as Small closes things out. And a site that had been previously won by NIP will be over within 50 seconds.
Good read. We were just talking so much about the roam game, and that's exactly what Black Dragons read into. They said, you know, the roam is our biggest problem in attacking the site, so let's just skip them. If we drone and they're not in our path of entry, we don't really need to do it. And then our RDZ with that opening kill, of course, absolutely helped. Getting that initial kill, one less person to worry about on the actual push itself. And, I mean, it was a decent attempt at a retake by the last 2 roamers that were left, but against so many that had the bomb plant as well, yeah, it was going to be a tough spot. They're going to try lockers one more time, though, this time with a pulse in tow. I imagine he might play a bit more on site rather than on roam this time and try and hold it off for an actual plant just in case. Although you never know. The way, you know, if Wag's the roaming Smoke, I could imagine him being a roaming pulse on here as well. Slash going to tease that Maverick, and once again, we're going to see a different player on Zofia.
I'm more than anything, I'm just so surprised at how they've managed to right this ship. You know, it's here out of nowhere, you start things off with Nip looking like Black Dragons are just chumps and have no clue how to enter. They enter separately, they get picked off by 2 members of Nip real early on. Everything looks like it's just falling to pieces, and your snapshot after that first round that we saw was, wow, Black Dragons are really going to have to figure out how to get inside the building with some semblance of coordination, or else, you know, Nip is just going to feast on them for the next 4 rounds after this.
10 seconds left.
Cue the next 3 rounds, and what ends up happening, but Black Dragons have just, they had a bit of a slow start in the second round, but rounds 3 and 4, they just looked unstoppable once they got into the building, especially as the pace has been just increased every round. It'll be tough to beat what we just saw. As you had both the Twitch and the Lion picking up kills for Black Dragons within the first 20 seconds. Unlikely that we'll be able to see that happen this time around, as we're about to hit that 20-second mark and everybody's still alive.
Well, this is the last attack round for Black Dragons, so if they could pull it off, a 4-1 lead is a great way to start going into the other side, especially if they might be a little shakier on that defense. But nonetheless, they have the operators that they need for this deck. We haven't seen a ton of impact frags from Slash and Small, but there have been a few good ones. But a lot of the opening kills have come down to Drunks and RDZ, so if they can continue to repeat that success with an opening kill or 2, I do think this could start to shift their way yet again.
I don't know if there's been an assessment that the push is going to move towards the bank vault side of things and the elevators, but Julio will move down the Evil Eye and realize that there's not appropriate coverage over on B. Now, A was, of course, being guarded by Wog, the smoke that was, or Kamikaze rather, that was playing the smoke behind the server stack. Once again, so used to seeing Wog on that role all the time. Having Kamikaze there is very intriguing. Not exactly sure what's going on with the ping here, but apparently there's been a litany of issues between these two teams. Unfortunate to see that start off under those circumstances. But
yeah,
Slash and RDZ just watching towards the blue stairs, but where you'd usually see a member of a team or 2 positioned over there, there'll be nobody. It doesn't look like Levi had a drone on the Echo of Psycho, who was just sitting immobile by the door towards Garage. If he doesn't bother to move at all, that could be a very vulnerable spot for him to be in. RDZ with a couple opening frags now, as he'll start round number 5 with the very first kill as he gets Wog, who, by the way, Wog leading the way with opening deaths on his team.
Yeah, he's kind of the flip side of RDZ here. The nice thing is that Levi bringing the Jackal again, but this time being much more careful about it, droning for his teammates instead of face checking. He is still alive at this point, so by the time they start to get going for pushing site, he might be able to pick up footprints of any roamers remaining and help prevent that retake along with the Lion.
And what has been a very smart idea, this Evil Eye positioned to see Drunks as he drops through the vault hatch. He'll lose some of his health. He's got the smoke to his right. He's got both a Yokai and an Evil Eye on him. We'll see if there's going to be a crossfire that they can establish, as the Echo was playing by that door in the Garage. Could possibly have a line of sight, but the rest of Black Dragons will drop through the elevator, and now it's going to be all on Julio, who moves around the money stack, sees the Glass's head for just a second. PCD had been finished earlier on, and his plant going down. That's going to be Small getting zapped for 5 damage apiece before they lose the Evil Eye. Slash and Levi are there, and this looks like a lockout, as now it's just Julio again. But the PMM of Drunks gets unholstered. And he'll find a bullet through the skull of Julio, meaning that it's 4-1 in favor of Black Dragons. And this could be a very fast match, as they'll switch sides, and we'll see Black Dragons go on to defense.
Well, this was definitely not the start we expected. While both of these guys were down at the bottom of the leaderboard, I feel like Nip had much better run lately, not just the offline events, but also in the Pro League itself. Between those two, they definitely should be doing better than this at this point. But maybe they're just off to a rough start. Sound like there might have been some issues with their internet connection, and maybe some of these remakes are kind of throwing them off a little bit. We'll see if Small sticks on that operator. Something we have seen some good plays from on Bank, in particular Eunice. Highlight for that.
Now, the way that Nip had structured their defense to put the focus on server and then have very little presence inside of lockers, they read after the first 20 to 30 seconds, likely from drone placement and where the entry of Black Dragons was, as the entry tended to be towards tellers to open up that hatch inside of vault and then lockers as well. that it was very much going to be a B push on towards the Locker's bomb site. So Nip readjusted. You saw they shot out the bottom of the wall that led into the part of Vault right under the hatch. So if somebody dropped through that hatch, you'd have the floor open so you could return fire quite easily and take away the cover that the attackers would have had. You also set down the Evil Eye that can see through those open hatches, and most importantly can see through the smoke that would likely come from any smoke operator, whether they were running a Jackal or a Glaz. A Glaz was in play for Black Dragon, so it ended up being the right call. But they lost Wag as he was roaming, and that put a lot of pressure on the rest of the site players. I think PZD realized that he needed to get closer to the site. He got picked off as he was trying to help the rest of his team, and you find yourself in a 3v5. It's a winnable situation, but it requires you to play it smart. And with how aggressive Black Dragons has been, I don't think Nip is prepared for the plays that BD is having, especially when you saw the Jackal as well as the Glaz drop through those two hatches and use their focus on the B wall, because even with that Evil Eye there, the numbers advantage was in favor of Black Dragons. They started to get the plant down, and Nip had to scramble.
It definitely would have been a different occasion, of course, had Small already been on low on health. They would have been able to stop the defuse and force them to scramble for it. But the Evil Eye, yeah, only does a certain amount of damage, wasn't able to finish the job in time. And I think that was a significant factor for them, relying on that versus, say, an Echo Drone.
Yeah, and the Echo Drone was in play too. Keep in mind that they had Psycho on the Echo. So there was lots of utility and gadgets that Nip could have used to possibly try and stop that plant, but Black Dragons played it very well. And as we said, 3 of them dropped through the hatch in both Elevator and then through Vault. So Small is stalking his prey. He'll see on the default cam that a member of Nip has shot it on those marble stairs. And you can see there's PZD. The Ash is immobile, droning right now, but now we'll pop off and go for the drone. Oh. The Lion coming in, and there you go. The Lion will get downed, and Small will finish him. I think wisely realizing that there was the Ash there. Keep in mind the Ash was the one that was found on cam. Small's going to have to shoot his way out of here as a flash goes in, and PZD trying to circle in. Who's going to win? He'll be Head, the Caveira. No second follow-up there from the Cav. Wog had jumped in too, so even if PZD had been taken down, no interrogation as Wog would have been there for the follow-up.
Well, a nice attempt, though. Getting that kill on the Lion's definitely going to help because, of course, we know how impactful Lion can be, especially when it comes to stopping the retakes. But in this case, there's still some good utility left. You got Psycho on that Glaz, Julio on that Capitao. Unfortunately, though, for Levy, he's going to have to pull off the stairs, and that is a lot of aggression coming from both sides, but he still wins the fight.
I can't believe that at such close range. That SMG-11 does have a great amount of firepower, but manages to outduel a Glaz in the fire of Wog. Oh my goodness, Julio's Capitao Firebolt is able to kill almost all of Wog, and then he steps in one goo mine, and this is just a calamity from Nip. As things falling apart, now you've got the Jaeger of RDZ getting very aggressive on blue stairs. And once again, I'll say this for probably the 4th time today, Julio is the last member of Nip alive. Will his patience be rewarded? Well, he'll find Drunks. Still got 2 more to go, but the clock is going to be his biggest adversary. He's only got 15 seconds left. He uses one of his smoke bolts to try and clear a way in, but Slash will be holding a tight angle. Another smoke will go in, and a pre-fire from Slash as that's... You realize there's under 10 seconds left. He's going to try to rush through that smoke. Yeah. You can just fire away and hope that your bullets hit. He gets lucky enough. And now that's 5 consecutive rounds for Black Dragons. They're on match point here.
And that's the problem. You don't want to push through an area where there is a Meister watching. When you've got 80 bullets, you can pretty much cover that area with pre-fire for as long as you need at that point. It was definitely not a situation where that was even very winnable for him just because of the utility they had left. I mean, an Evil Eye could have finished him off as well. He'd already taken so much damage. Definitely a tough spot to be in. But here's CEO for the first time. Maybe this is where Nip's fortune will change. If not, then it's over.
Yeah, I'm honestly very puzzled at the way
Nip
has been such an odd team this year. We always know that Nip performs better on land. Michael pointed out yesterday that there are certain teams that do very well on land. A good example of that is Liquid as a team has never had the same success in typically online as they have at LAN events, whereas FaZe has been the opposite. FaZe has been very consistent online, but at LANs, FaZe has almost always fallen through. The exception being, of course, in Brazil. This is the 2nd time in a row that they've won BR6. FaZe just walked away with the victory this weekend. So that was a feather in their cap. But FaZe at international LAN contests have largely been victims of the quarterfinals, getting to the semis, don't get me wrong, and they didn't even make it out of groups in Paris. So with Nip, yeah, they're a team that excels when they're in person with one another, competing on that LAN build. But online, especially this season in particular, they have not looked that good. Also, strange though that Nip, who were competing under the Black Dragons handle on the weekend for BR6, finished second to FaZe, losing 2-1. So it's not like the team has had a poor run. They just did quite well within the last 48 hours.
Well, this is, of course, you know, maybe the first victory for Black Dragons, but that's sometimes it happens. You get that shot. They made some changes. I mean, maybe the addition of Small made a difference. Maybe it is with Cloud9 and bringing on Mark. It wasn't necessarily, I mean, although to be fair, Mark was getting a lot of frags, whereas I can't say necessarily the same for Small, but maybe that was the player they needed to really change up the roles that they were playing and allow some of the other players that were able to frag out to play some more of those frag-heavy roles, or some of the operators they were looking to play because now they have maybe the support operator they needed. It's one of those small things that you don't necessarily know a lot about unless you're on the team itself and their internal structure. But it is sometimes a big, big difference. And so far, I'd say it's working, except for WAG.
Except for here, the Rook will get down as he vaults over Skylight Stairwell. RDZ taking WAG out again. WAG yet again being the opening death in this matchup. And for Nip, it has been putting them at a 4v5 on so many different rounds. It's unfortunate for them because WAG usually doesn't play a role where he's the first one to die.
Especially being the Thermite. He definitely should be. I mean, Thermite and Smoke, he shouldn't be playing aggressive. In this case, he did play over-aggressive. Not sure what RDZ's doing, if he's just trying to bait them out or hide at this point. But nonetheless, he got away with that kill, and it was on the only hard breacher. So even dying right there and burning that much time to kill him, he absolutely did his job phenomenally.
Yeah, you got a Doc instead. He gets back up and is back into the fight. But it was a Rook, so he didn't have any chance to heal himself back. So he traded a Rook for a Thermite. I'll take that any day of the week.
Especially since he gave out his armor.
Yeah, and I mean, you lose the hard breacher for Nip, which on CEO, as you noted, is the default site typically for Black Dragons. It's not detrimental. You don't really need a Thermite here. We mentioned this yesterday when Hibana was taken out. I struggle to remember exactly what match it was yesterday, but Hibana was taken out on one of the sites, and I think it was actually, it was Kitchen on Coastline. You lose a Hibana. You don't need a Hibana. Obviously, it's always good to have a hard breacher for your execute because there's usually going to be a strat involved with that. But there you go. Drunk's a nice reflexive shot on the Psycho as he just peeks around the window, and that's the Glaz, who has really not seen much success for Nip so far. Usually, we see a lot of Psycho being able to just strike fear in the hearts of everyone. PZD looks the wrong way as he works out of stock trading and absorbs a lot of damage from Slash the Maestro. Now Smoke here, but no! Levi manages to get PZD as Kamikaze has to hold fire lest he end up hurting his own teammate. And with Julio being finished off by Small, as you touched upon, it's sometimes it can make a small difference. Well, it definitely seems like he did. A very quick match as it's a 6-1 in favor of Black Dragons versus Nip, the old Black Dragons. And what's old is new again. It was a 5-5 tie the first time that these teams met, so Black Dragons will walk away with the tiebreaker between the two teams, 6-1.
Ooh. Well, that's got to feel good for a team that's been struggling this whole time. We come to the second half. I wouldn't credit it necessarily to new ops or bomb sites or anything like that. It was just they were playing much, much better as a team. And I think we saw a bit of sloppy play from Nip, especially from WAG, who was on important operators when he was dying. Let's say you were, Ash, something like that, you're dying early. All right, that's fine. You're a disposable operator to an extent. But Thermite dying that early left them in a situation where all of their pushes were going to be very predictable at that point. Not that you could even call that much of a push when they were all just getting massacred in stock.
And I mean, that last round, we saw Black Dragons I don't want to say spawn peek because it wasn't spawn peeking, but they were fighting the angles to the exterior of the building. They weren't even letting Nip walk
just
into
denial.
the main door. I mean, WAG went in solo towards the double doors on the exterior patio of Skylight Stairwell, ends up getting finished off by a Rook. Now, mind you, there was another member of Nip who was playing up top on the building who was able to see the Rook and fell him, but like you said, it burned about 30 to 40 seconds because they feared Black Dragons using their numbers advantage to possibly pick up the Rook. After they droned him out, that's when the Lion was able to get the kill, but that was really all they were able to put together there as the rest of the round went firmly in Black Dragons' favor, and that was almost as convincing a win as that you can get between the two teams.
It was. I think it was definitely a case of one team really being on today and one team really being off, and I think the numbers reflect that. Whereas I feel like if we were to see this match again on another day, it might go differently. In the case of maybe it's just a case where Nip, just whatever they were doing during the short little break that they had didn't work out for them.
So they go from almost capturing BR6 against FaZe to getting 6-1 against Black Dragon. Something happened there, but they've got a week to reassess and go over VODs, counter strat, etc. before we head into week number 9. For both of these teams, though, they're very close to the bottom. I think this might actually level them up because I think it was 2 points for Black Dragons, who finds their very first victory of the season. So a round of applause for them, and now every single team in Latin America has at least one win under their belt.
That's nice.
With that said, we're going to head to a short break, and we'll be back with FaZe versus Immortals. That's a battle of a team in second in Immortals versus FaZe in fourth. That'll be surely an exciting affair, and we'll also get to see the new roster of FaZe as they'd made a roster change, but we'll get to that when we're done our break. We'll see you soon.
Stylish on the outside, savage on the inside. Legion by Lenovo.
Welcome back, everybody, to our second matchup of week number 8. It's our first Latin America show in quite a while, and we actually have a change of teams. It might be my fault, but I've never accepted blame for anything I've ever done in my life. Just kidding.
That's your fault for not accepting the blame.
It's also my fault.
Yeah.
As a Canadian, I'm sorry. Team 1 versus Pain Gaming. Our next up. I want peak Canadian there for you. I went peak Canadian for you, just for you.
I appreciate it.
So we're going to have the team that's rated 3rd, which is Team 1, versus the team that's ranked 6th in Pain Gaming. And there's been some changes to Pain Gaming as well. There's been one change, actually. It works out quite well with the phase change that I mentioned earlier, but we won't see Phase Immortal until the very final matchup of the day. As previously mentioned, Liquid versus Bootcamp has been rescheduled till tomorrow. So Liquid versus Bootcamp's matchup will go then. Liquid is currently sitting in 1st place, so if they win, then they will continue to stretch their lead out, as they have. They actually are tied with Immortals right now, if I recall correctly.
Surprising.
14 apiece. Immortals been doing quite well.
They definitely have been doing so. I think they did pretty good in, I believe it was Paris as well.
Imbued by the fact that they also now have a team skin, as we'd mentioned earlier in the broadcast. But Pain Gaming's roster, you might see something different on it. One of the longest tenured members in UNA and one of the best known members in all of Latin America is no longer on the roster. He's actually moved over to FaZe, and he's been replaced by 9XT. 9XT had very briefly gone over to be a professional in PUBG and is now back in Rainbow Six. And we'll see if there's going to be any rust there as he reacclimates to a scene that he used to compete in.
Well, it was Pain that was on, UNA that was on a Pain roster twice now. So if history repeats itself, shouldn't FaZe get picked up by Pain now? just to follow him everywhere he goes.
I mean, to be fair, they were Pain. They went to Yeah Gaming. They left Yeah Gaming, and they went back to Pain. So, I mean, technically, it's not like he picked up a different roster. It's just that Pain Gaming were here. And Pain Gaming, of course, an enormous Brazilian organization. They'll be competing against the team that is currently sitting in 3rd place. Just out of reach of a playoff spot, at least for the time being, is Team 1, GDN, Panico, Hugzord, Blacks, and Ion.
A good team that's been somewhat inconsistent occasionally, but I think this is a very strong team, and I think we'll see how the roster change goes, as I think it would very well for Black Dragons, as we just saw. And I'd say so far roster changes have gone well for, looking at Montreal, pretty much every team but Evil Geniuses for the most part. So I think Team 1 may be, going to have to adapt to a little bit of different play from 9XT.
Yeah. So Team 1, his name is usually iBlacks, but it just says Blacks, so I don't know if he's dropped the I from his name. We'll see when we
maybe Apple filed something.
Cut and thrust of the game. Maybe there was an injunction was filed against his name, maybe for breach of copyright. I'm not entirely certain, as that is a staple of Apple's branding terminology.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, the color thing, he's still repping the color at least, and that's the important part.
Yes. So we'll be, in just a couple moments, we'll do our map veto between these two teams, and we'll get them in here. And yeah, I'm going to look at Pain Gaming and see. UNA was always one of their most impactful players. GCR also, who was a great player. FK1's shown sign of brilliance too. UNA playing with both Revolts and Spawns for quite a while now. GCR and FK1 were the two members that jumped over to the team, if I recall, from INTZ, if I remember.
Yeah, the old days.
In the olden days, because they ended up getting relegated. It is a little difficult sometimes to keep track of all the different roster changes.
Especially since the Latin American one's not always updated on the ESL site.
And it's not even necessarily that. It's that a lot of times players will leave an org to go to another org, and that org will get picked up by another org, and then their old org will get picked up by another org. A good example is what we just saw with Black Dragons versus Ninjas in Pajamas, is that Ninjas in Pajamas were Black Dragons.
Yeah.
Yuna and Mav and a host of players, Zig included, used to play for Black Dragons way back in the day as well, but on a different roster.
Yeah, that's the 3rd Black Dragons.
And then Black Dragons, because of rules with BR6, had Ninjas in Pajamas competing under their brand just 2 days ago. So when you saw FaZe versus Black Dragons in the final, you're thinking, that's kind of strange. I didn't know Black Dragons were quite that good. Oh, it's the old Black Dragons roster. So just a bit of an interesting set of circumstances with BR6 versus Latin America Pro League. But let's take a look at the map veto now as we can bring up for you what maps we will and won't play on. We just saw an exciting matchup on Bank. Coastline and Oregon are banned this time around, so there is a possibility that we could go back to Bank depending on the way that these bans shape.
Possible. Also a possibility of Villa, as it's not been banned out. Consulate, something we saw a lot over the last weekend. Not going to be played here as well. I don't think that's due to the new bomb site or anything, but there goes Bank off the board. So it's down to Border Clubhouse Villa, which is dropped next.
And both Coastline and Consulate have seen so much play recently. I feel like we actually haven't seen that much Oregon. Oregon has very much fallen out of favor, which is a delight to a lot of viewers who, for quite a while, were critical of the fact that teams seem to have Oregon as always the must-see site or the must-see map to play on. Just waiting on the last ban from Team 1. They got Border and Clubhouse last left, and it's going to be Border, so we're going to go to Clubhouse. It's always a treat to get to see the new Clubhouse as well.
Especially depending on the operator bans, I think can affect this bomb site, or the bomb site's quite a bit upstairs specifically. Sometimes we'll see a Thermite band, or a Thatcher, or even Habana, or a Bandit even we've seen in the past. So there's lots of different ways to strategically try and affect those top floor bomb sites, which I think is one of the few maps that does that so much.
Yeah, and especially on Gym and Master side of the deal with the jacuzzi wall.
Yeah.
Now, there's a wall just outside by the jacuzzi on the little patio that they have, the little balcony out there, where there used to be a portion of the wall above the top of the reinforcement that the reinforcement did not cover.
Yeah.
And if you were to put an exothermic charge on it, as an attacker, the defenders could have an impact and throw the impact, hit the top, and it would blow up. And the explosive radius from the impact would actually get the exothermic charge and keep the wall safe for the defense. That section of the wall has now been replaced by a metal beam, so defenders are no longer able to easily take out the exothermic charge or a set of X-Kairos by Hibana with an impact grenade. It's made that site a little bit more favorable to the attackers.
To be honest, I'm disappointed about that change.
I mean, it's okay. I think that there's a lot to be said with requiring teams to have to attack differently other than just throwing one impact grenade. No, there's plenty of opportunities, especially on Clubhouse, to stop either a set of X-Kairos to save a hatch or to save a hard wall, especially downstairs in church, because that church wall still has that part where you can throw the impact.
Yeah, it's not completely gone. And I mean, obviously there's not that on the other side, on that sort of kennels wall, so you don't have that same opportunity, but nonetheless there's plenty of ways to bandit trick that.
Who do you think is going to walk away with this? Pain Gaming is a very popular team, a very popular org, and even though Pain Gaming is sitting in 6th, and even with the change taking one of their star players of Yuna out, and we'll see what 9XT is able to contribute to the team. Well, would you look at that? It's going to be Pain Gaming, 60, 28, and 12. That is quite a gulf between these teams, especially for Team 1 who's sitting in 3rd right now.
Maybe it's because they saw that roster change, and they have faith in it to bring them back. We saw what it just did for Black Dragons. So it's possible that that could be the change that they needed. I mean, chances are Yuna was probably moving in what looked like an upgrade to him, so we'll see if they found an adequate replacement, as this is a player we haven't seen anything from, much like Small. So it is another big wild card, I think. And of course, that will probably shift the roles that they play, which will make it even more of a wild card for for the other side to deal with. For Team 1.
From what I understand, Yuna was doing a lot of the shot calling as well for Pain. And it's something that he's going to be bringing to FaZe now. If we can just focus on FaZe for just a second here before we get into the next matchup, was that Gohan was doing primary shot calling for FaZe. Now that he's no longer on the team, I believe he's been benched or moved to sub, if I recall. He posted on Instagram that he was going to be taking a bit of a break from competitive gaming for the time being. You also had Mav as the secondary IGL. This is Yuna and Mav also being reunited. The last time they played together, they played under the Black Dragons banner. So these two members of two separate teams now being on the same team together, and if Yuna's going to be taking over a primary IGLing role with Mav helping him, that could be a major directive for FaZe, because FaZe has always really struggled to put it together where they've had those building blocks. They look like they're going to do well, and then they just failed to realize the potential that I think a lot of people see the team having.
I think pretty much everything you just said was a big factor in why he made that shift.
Oh, absolutely.
And why it worked out. And I mean, we'll see how that works out for the team. But overall, that sounds like a good change in terms of, I mean, it's a bummer about Gohan. breaks usually don't last that long in this game, though, so I imagine he'll be back shortly because it's hard to scratch this itch with anything else. Maybe he won't be back directly in Pro League or anything like that, but I imagine won't be the last we see of Gohan for quite a while.
Oh, Gohan's a very talented player in terms of his ability to get kills. You know, he absolutely tore it up. He got 33 kills or something like that over 2 matches in one stretch in the Paris Major Quals. I believe it was against Orglis, and just an absolute Herculean effort to lift his team up. But enough about FaZe. We'll be talking about them next matchup. Team 1 versus Pain Gaming. We'll get underway, and we'll go to Clubhouse, a map that has seen a rework not too long ago. We've actually got the new flight here for you showing the updates. And if you're new to the way that this map is played, Clubhouse is typically defender favored. It's one of the maps where you can usually see the defenders rack up the score with good reliability. It's not as prone to operator bans as some of the other maps. A good example of that could possibly be Bank, and it really depends on exactly what gets taken out by the attackers here now. Typically seeing a lot of hard breacher bans, especially on this map, because taking Hibana or Thermite away from one of the teams, especially the first attacking team, fundamentally changes how they have to attack the sites. That translates directly to a loss of hard destruction on the basement for attackers, as well as being able to take a crack at the garage, because a lot of times teams have to wrestle control of the garage away from the defenders. But there will be no hard breacher bans this time, as Lion and Thatcher will be the 2 attack operators banned. Lion being banned by Pain, Thatcher from Team 1, and our first defensive ban from Team 1 will come in, and it's going to be Mira. Not really a surprise there. Mira is often banned on most maps just because of the immense amount of things that she brings to the table for the defense.
You can say the same about Lion. This is not the first time we've seen Thatcher banned on this. A big part of that is being able to better defend that kennel wall I was talking about earlier by being able to bandit trick it and not having to deal with Thatcher going to make that even easier. But maybe because Maverick is not banned, we will see him impact that cache bomb site because of his ability to deny bandit and or mute. There goes Echo off the board as well, so that means Maestro in play is probably going to see a fair amount of play. Could also see Clash, as it's not banned, but it was also not banned. No, it was banned last matchup, so it was no surprise to not see it there. And there we go, 9XT, the newest member, already at least teasing it, if not going to stick it.
We've seen a lot of teams run the Clash and then 6-pick off of it, because I think you need a certain operator lineup to take care of Clash. Zofia and Capitao are often Clash's 2 hardest counters, and with a Clash on the board, wouldn't be much of a surprise to see a possible change here for T1. And there you go, from Blackbeard to Zofia, because those 3 concussive mines from the lifeline will be able to remove Clash's shield from in front of her body and make her vulnerable for a short period of time and allow some counterplay for the attackers. The Finca is going to be very interesting because the only real region where we see Finca played at all is Latin America. We know that Pain Gaming really likes to run a Finca Blitz combo, but of course Pain starting on defense, it's going to be Team 1 who are going to be mirroring that to a certain extent, bringing the Finca. Now she also has frag grenades after the recent change, so just a little bit extra in her kit. And those frags will pair nicely with the frag grenades as well available from the Bucks. So 4 frag grenades on the board for the attackers. Not to mention the grenades on Sophia's lifeline as well. So yeah, they're going to have a lot of destructive capability onto the actual site. What they're not bringing, though, I don't think is any smokes for Glaz other than Glaz himself. So he's going to be kind of doing his own thing for the most part. The only hard breacher they're bringing is Thermite. They're not going to bother with Hibana for the hatches, which means a maximum of 2 hatches open on this attack here. So they're going to have to choose wisely. I imagine we'll probably see Moto hatch open and possibly either kitchen or stock for the other, depending on how they want to go about it. But nonetheless, as you mentioned, a lot of destructive capability. It is interesting, though, to see the Finca being brought in terms of what this is actually going to bring to the attack. I mean, yeah, you have the boost, but that's not really going to do a ton for these particular attackers, other than, you know, give them that little extra bit. Although I would imagine the recoil reduction might not impact as much certain guns that were changed already by the recoil in terms of messing with your recoil control. So that might be a factor in maybe making Finca slightly more playable in the current build. Also, without the Thatcher ban, it also means that trying to take out this dirt tunnel could be very easy, or it could be very difficult for the attackers. As you've seen a deployable shield and a mute jammer being placed behind it would basically make it out of reach for the attackers to be able to get the mute jammer unless wasting frag grenades or possibly even 1 or 2 of Zophia's grenades from the lifeline. So I'm surprised that after the Thatcher ban came out, we didn't see Pain capitalize on that. Team 1 banned the Thatcher starting on attack, so obviously they likely had a strategy in mind, but I'm going to see Pain Gaming probably try to take advantage of the fact that Team 1 with that Thermite could have possibly foregone a push on the dirt. Now, mind you, without a Hibana, it doesn't seem likely that an exothermic charge is going to be used on the dirt tunnel.
Yeah.
So, likely see it probably go in the kitchen hatch and the bar hatch, or even keep one for the church wall.
Yeah, definitely a resource choice you have to make, and hopefully they don't have to change up last minute because you don't get a lot of options once you've already dedicated to one push that you're going to have to make. And this Clash in Blue is actually going to make this interesting in terms of holding this back, because Blue can be hard to hold normally except for behind Generator, but this shield, of course, is going to make it possible for him to just push aggressively towards the stairs and maybe even rotate up late if he can keep control of those.
There's a drone sitting in front of 9XT anticipating a possible body or 2 at Blue stairs. 9XT will call it out and will get manually shot from somebody from Pain inside a church. This clash is going to be really intriguing to watch. It's going to be the first clash that we do see today. Obviously, as you mentioned, that clash being banned on Bank meant that this is the only opportunity, or the earliest opportunity, that the new shielded operator on defense could get brought out. Hugzord, as he aggresses down the bottom of main stairs, will meet his end at the hands of a well-placed C4. You managed to take out that Zofia, so one of the best counters available to Clash will be gone. Also, keep in mind that with the Sphinca in play, her ability to make the rest of her team super soldiers is still very much there. Spawns will pick up a double, and Revolt's getting one for Pain means that it's all up to Iblax as he'll be slowed very frustratingly so, and 9XT will just pull down the shield, drop the shield, pull out the 2-round SMG. Look at how slow it makes you. Perfect display here, and just tap, tap, tap away. Pain will open things up with a successful first-round defense.
Unfortunately for that Finca, the boost, I believe the adrenaline boost, does not counter the taser slowdown in any way. So you're still just slowed down. You saw the effect of that as he tried to push towards it for the melee, because one of the counters that is possible if you're not being tased is melee and Clash of Shield, and you get a nice hip fire shot that you can do plenty of damage with if you time it well, if you have a good ADS time on your gun. But nonetheless, didn't get the opportunity because of being slowed down through that narrow entry path. So iBlack's going to change his mind in his attacking operator, although they're, of course, changing bomb sites as well. They're going to go for that cache. And again, sneaking in the Clash, but this time a 6-pick. And there's the Maverick as well, so both new operators being 6-picked. We'll see that being a factor. But, as I said, this is the one bomb site where I'd say Maverick impacts the most, and where I was most excited to see him play, you know, once he was revealed. Although in this case, I was anticipating the hot tub jacuzzi wall you were talking about earlier still being impactable, in which case Maverick would have an even bigger impact on this map. But nonetheless, he still will be useful even if they try and push on that side.
So, where are we going to see things shake out? A CCTV and cache upstairs will be the scene for round number 2. Now, the way that you attack CCTV and cache can vary depending on your actual composition. Cloud9, for example, just yesterday, made it a habit, and also all throughout Montreal, of attacking through construction, often negating the defensive structures that were set up from their opponents inside a garage. But typically, teams won't do that. They'll have to seize garage first. A lot of times, the most defensive structure, as mentioned, that you'll see will be either a Maestro or an Echo or a Mute or a Jaeger playing up top. Now, there is a Jaeger available as well as a Maestro. And 2 ADSs situated on that top catwalk mean that there will likely be a body played up there. There are plenty of projectile spam coming out from Team 1, so they can clear those ADS, but it will require a commitment of either their secondary gadgets or their primaries. Looking very closely at Hugzord as a Zofia, possibly to use some of her gadgetry and her resources to try and drain the ADSs. Iblax is going to now take this Kennel's Wall, as you mentioned, and that'll open things up for GDN. And look at that, all it takes is one puff of Surrey, that blowtorch, to negate the bandit wire on the other side, and there'll be a freebie for GDN as that wall now opens wide up and allows T1 to just survey all of CCTV, and that pushes Pain back deeper into the site.
Well, thankfully for them, they have that Clash shield that they snuck in on their 6th pick to be able to push back against that wall, and that is something that Ion cannot shoot through. So it's a situation where they're going to have to figure out some way to push that back. They do have the Zofia you're mentioning is somewhat of a counter to an extent, but you have to kind of have a teammate there ready to take the opportunity to take that shot, because the timing on trying to get back to your weapon on Zofia is not really fast enough to do much with that.
We also saw the bandit wire and then the solidified wall over towards construction. It's pretty common that a team would try to take that wall next, so they'll have to quicken the pace, though, for the attackers as 90 seconds goes through. Now, 9XT will see the Zofia is direct counter, or is sort of counter here now, as 9XT will drop the shield, pull out that 2-round burst. Ion will survey on top of the catwalk above, just the side of FK1's Jaeger, and will try to get a shot through the grate, but it will not land, though Ion will end up out-dueling the Glaz, or getting out-dueled as FK gets the Glaz of Ion towards the main door of Garage. T1 have complete control of CCTV at the moment, and a grenade from Panica will go out. All GDN needs to do is walk into site and begin to plant here. There's no yokai drones in play, of course, Echo being banned. It means that the only real stop that Pain has is a C4 or an Evil Eye Cam. Revolts will manage to take out GDN, and Panico equips that skeleton key. He'll walk right in, Diffuser goes down, and not exactly known for how much damage it can output, Panico will be able to get that kill with the skeleton key before Spawns is there to trade him off. 9XT inside a Garage still. That shield will have to lumber up onto the catwalk. Pulls out the 2-round burst and out duels GCR. Great job, but iBlax with a double on Repel means that it'll be 9XT versus iBlax in a 1v1. The brand new operators, Devin, will be the 2 to square off against one another. 9X will have 7 seconds to stick that defuse, but iBlax up on Repel here. It should make it easy, but the shield is on the back of 9XT, which means that iBlax is going to have to be very, very precise.
Wow.
And he'll miss it, not anticipating that 9XT shield will save him from taking too much damage, and that's a big miscalculation for Team 1, and Pain Gaming will manage to take 2 in a row now off of a great play from the Clash of 9XT.
Well, now there's no question that the new player on the team is definitely fitting in, as he saved the day at the end of the round. Also got some kills earlier, and fantastic play by his part, playing similar to the way the Montaigne has to play those stairs, but in this case, the fact that he didn't die, even having flanks on both sides, makes me think he's obviously played a bit of Clash, and was, or at least some other shield operators, and was well prepared to play that. But excellent play on his part, and it was great demonstration as well of why Maverick was useful, especially being a 6 pick the way he was. Because Bandit wasn't going to be expecting that, because it was a 6 pick, he was able to sneak and open up that little hole, get that battery out, and open that wall up. That was a great start by Team 1, but the fact that they couldn't finish the execute, despite having so much control of the map, was a bit of a surprise. But 9X gonna stick sneak in the 6th pick again on the Clash, but this time iBlax completely revealing the Maverick, not bothering to hide it, and we'll see if it's a factor again on the wall here on Gym Bedroom this time.
So Gym Bedroom will function very similarly in the sense that you will likely assume the Maverick will take out the any possible resources that the defenders have on that jacuzzi wall. Take a look at the top right composition though, and that's Pain Gaming foregoing any type of breach denial. They're just going to let them have those walls for free, and then I assume structure themselves. So even though the attackers will be able to take the walls, they'll stumble transitioning after the breach goes off. There's obviously no bandit and no mute available for Pain Gaming, so that's what I'm talking about when I say breach denied.
It's possible too that they don't realize you can't impact anymore and are thinking that that Lesion's going to be able to stop it. Hopefully not the case though. Hopefully, as you said, that was their plan, to just let it open. Bringing the Clash though when the walls are going to get open does seem like a good idea. We saw it even impact the very end of last round. Because if you're going to have a big hole in the wall, what better thing to stick in it than a giant shield that can at least block and watch it, although maybe not completely deny their entry. It is going to make it much easier for you to defend that hole once it is open. Because, of course, the most dangerous thing to do is peek it. So, overall, this could be a good back-and-forth tussle like last bomb site was.
This is still a late setup now for Pain, as the exothermic charge will be able to find its target onto that jacuzzi wall. As we'd mentioned earlier on, you see debris shoot all the way towards the end of the hallway, signifying that that wall is going to be wide open. You got the Bailiff equipped on Revolts' Maestro, still slowly opening things up between the two sites, but he'll hop onto that Evil Eye Cam positioned by that opened hole in the jacuzzi wall. Don't exactly know what he was trying to do there. Maybe try to draw out any other operators that could have been on the other side of the wall. It's just the thermite of GDN that's playing by the jacuzzi hole. Maverick had rotated over there as iBlacks will be on the drone, but not currently an active member of the team. Hugzord is also joined over on the jacuzzi wall, so it does appear that it'll be somewhat of a gym push, at least for the time being, as 9XT tries to draw the fire away from the rest of Team 1. Inside of Logistics' office, there's a drone of Ion sitting up on the hatch just to try and keep tabs on where that shield is going to be, and you'll see 9XT will move from room to room as he leaves that office and heads towards master bedroom. So good timing at the moment for Team 1 to be able to move and try to corral Pain Gaming, but they're going to have to try to transition here towards the execute, and burning the ADS is going to be their first focus, possibly to try to clear things up for both Panico and Hugzord to get the most out of those frag grenades as well as the projectiles from the Zofia.
Well, you did see the one grenade go up, but 9XT is actually acting as quite a bit of a fragging operator despite being a shield intel operator most of the time. I think he's got this down very well in terms of timing, and the fact that he's able to play this with both sides exposed is impressive to say the least, because he could easily be taken out by just good timing and communication from Team 1 or possibly even a well-placed grenade. But nonetheless, Panico is going to be the one to sneak around. This could be the end of 9XT if they are able to time it right, but he's actually moved on into the room. Hopefully they have also taken out that Evil Eye that they could have easily taken out with Zofia earlier on that wall.
Panico will be confronted and pulls out the skeleton key, but you cannot shoot through that shield. Panico is going to be slowed by a lot, and there you go. We'll reveal 9XT for just a second as he whacks away at her shield. That's an easy counter to Clash, but the rest of her team unable to jump on it. Panico will try to go yet again as he and 9XT squaring off. Painus is looking to lock this one down, but Diffuser will go down successfully as Revolt's taken out Ion, and now Spawns fells Panico. It's all up to iBlacks and GDN, the dual hard breachers of Maverick and Thermite left, but iBlacks not able to secure the kill that he was hoping for. GDN, meanwhile, playing by the bathroom wall as iBlacks could possibly go for a double. He gets 9XT and he softens up GCR, but he will be traded off, leaving it all in the hands of the Thermite, holding a tight angle, but he misses his shots. Oh no, GCR will not be quite as unfortunate, and they'll get that diffuser with ease, as it was a great try from Team 1, but they just cannot put it together after they get that initial pressure onto Pain Gaming. That'll be 3 in a row for the defense here, as every single defensive site from Pain has gone their way.
And we'll see if they finally go for bomb site number 4, but they don't have to, so most likely back to church. Yep, and that will be it. Not a surprise there, but great execution on the defense for the most part there in terms of staying alive for a long period of time, especially on 9XT, who was able to hold that kind of hub point between 3 different rooms, between the bedroom, logistics, and the hallway leading to the wall and hot tub, as well as leading over to the gym, just denying so much entry because he was also watching the hatch in logistics. Not to mention, I imagine if they tried to push in through the construction connector side, he would also been able to help with that. So overall, just I know I'm highlighting him quite a bit in terms of being the new player, but he's being very impactful, and he's showing how to play that new operator. But I think iBlacks is also doing a fantastic job on Maverick. You saw him make some good kills both rounds on the cache as well as the gym, but it's just unfortunately for him, the rest of the team is not able to pull the kills together, and he's forced to do a lot of the killing himself along with that Thermite, and just he can only get so many in that tight hallway. We'll see if they can finally bring it back though on this bomb site, but they have yet to win anything so far, and getting close to that side switch.
I like that you touched upon how 9XT is playing Clash as more of a fragging operator. We're going to see 9XT go back to Clash now. This makes 4 rounds in a row that we've seen that defensive shield operator come out, and really taking advantage of the fact that that quick swap is able to make Clash fire back in close quarters. A lot of times what we see from 9XT is he'll slow the attackers, dive around a corner, swap to that 2-round burst SMG, and just unload as he re-emerges, not giving the attackers much time to respond here. And we saw he was towards the bottom of the leaderboard in terms of points, but he's got 3 kills, which is only 1 off the lead on his team, as there's a logjam right now at 3 points for the rest of Pain. So yeah, he's doing his role quite well while also being able to get kills. And speaking of doing their roles well, some soft destruction there from the bailiff of the Maestro of Revolts, eluding him. This setup, by the way, if anybody's curious, is so that Castle can throw an impact grenade up through the hole and stop the X-Kairos, or in this case, the exothermic charge from going off, as Team 1 has not run a Habana. They've been relying a lot on Maverick and then Thermite primarily as their main fragger there. It looks like they're also setting up for possibly another impact trick on the church wall. So 2 opportunities to possibly waste these exothermic charges from GDN, and that's a lot of value that would be lost because they don't have the second hard breacher available for the attackers.
Yeah, to have your secondary gadget deny 2 primary gadgets and the only hard breacher is an absolute great use of resources from the defenders, especially since those impacts aren't super necessary otherwise. So if they can pull even one of those off, that would be a big coup for them in terms of being able to get progress. iBlacks, they're bringing this Capitao, should be interesting, but they also have the Sledge to just open this right up and get this. It looks like he got the barbed wire at the exact same time. So well played by Panico, and actually going to use the hole that they made both ways, but does not land. Does a little bit of damage, but not too much.
Revolts, who was lying prone as the Maestro on the other side of that church wall, sees the grenade indicator come down and goes, oh, I should probably move. And
yeah.
That'll be the Maestro relocating. Now he will go on to his Evil Eye and zap a couple drones. Second frag grenade will get tossed down from Panico, and that one misses. So the first one was successful. It didn't actually hit its targets. It only took a small bit of Revolt's health off, but Panico wasn't able to do much with the second one, as he will see all the way down the hallway, and of course there's a clash. I love all these players just shooting at the clash because they reactively just see somebody and they want to fire, but don't really realize that you can't fire through that shield. As the Ash of Ion sprints in, GCR, who'd taken some damage in an ensuing fight, or an earlier fight, will take some more damage this time, as now a Firebolt goes in to try and get the clash. It'll be iBlacks down, but Pain here with 3 kills as Ion finds his second, but will find no more as he's traded off, meaning that it's a big advantage in favor of Pain. iBlacks has been down, so it's just Panico who'll behead spawns, but here comes the clash, and look at that. Whacks away and will now go to pick up his teammate as 9XT is unable to switch the shield. A good push from the Sledge, but he won't find that much more success as FK is there to silence him. But iBlacks, who'd been just picked back up as Capitao, will find himself in a 1v1. Very winnable from FK, but no! iBlacks will land his shot. FK looks just a little bit too far to the right and swings wide, giving Team 1 their very first victory in this game, and comes at a pretty good time, not allowing Pain to go up 4-0.
Good adjustment bringing the Capitao after all the trouble that Clash was giving you. Unfortunately, the focus on trying to get the Clash down with it cost him a little bit, but the fact that he was able to get picked back up managed to reverse that. Good play on Panico's part, especially taking down the Clash in the first place and turning that around. Unfortunately, the Diffuser did bait him into it a little bit, but great gunplay by the Capitao, winning that out with his low health. Still managing to save the day. That was a close one, though. For that to be your only win so far does make me worry for the rest of the rounds, because it is still 2-point advantage over to Pain. And this is going to be the last defense, though. If it turns out that this is defensive favored, in this case, as you mentioned earlier, then we could see a bit of a comeback from Team 1 after this round. 9XT going to do surprise no one here. 6-picking from the Pulse. And we're also going to see Panico, instead of iBlacks, bring in the Maverick this time. I feel like iBlacks was a good Maverick, so we'll see how Panico does on that.
The Maverick was not the issue at all in their attack last time. I don't know how much value you're going to get out of a Maverick downstairs on Church, as that's where we're going to go after an unsuccessful attempt from Pain. They'll try again, and we've seen this time and time again, especially from Pain, going back to sites that they didn't necessarily find any success on before. Bank comes to mind. They defended CCTV downstairs, lockers 4 times in a row until finally winning it. They only won it because their Twitch got an insane, or they got an insane 1v3, killing the Twitch in the final seconds and it getting the defuse off. So, I mean, you can stick with it and try again. They obviously feel very comfortable on Church, but I am a little puzzled as to why they go to Church again when they were successful on both CCTV and Gym. Possibly roll the die on one of those two sites on this map where you've had success before.
Well, in this case, they are bringing at least a different operator in terms of bringing the Dokkaebi, but not sure what good that's going to do if they're not playing Roam. I mean, there will be a little bit of work you can do with it downstairs, but with the difficulty in using the SMG-12 and being forced to use the CZ, now you're left with a less fragging operator and more dependent on the utility. Sure, you get the smokes, but you're not playing a glass or anything that's really going to benefit that much from the smoke outside of planting. So, I'm not sure what utility they're really going to get out of that. Might have been intended for a different bomb site, hoping they weren't going to play Church again, as you were mentioning, but in this case, still might help, but definitely going to be a bit of a questionable one. And they are not bringing the Capitao again, so not bringing something to, again, counter that Clash, maybe because they feel like Panico did just fine with Sledge, but he is going to be on Maverick this time. So they're all shaking things up a little bit despite that being the last round that they actually won. He could be useful in trying to deny at least the bandit batteries on the church wall, but that's a pretty exposed position, especially if they open the top of the wall and throw a C4 over, which is, of course, we know from Ubisoft, that is the counter to Maverick.
Now, the Dokkaebi still brings a ton to the table, though. Keep in mind, 2 smokes. If you're running the C75, that's still a lot of damage that it does. You know, the DMR is not that bad, and this is a lockdown composition if I've ever seen one from Team 1. They have the Dokkaebi to stop everybody as, oh, look at this, a beautiful C4, it'll catch it, goodbye Panico, as GCR just waiting for the Maestro there. A great read, and that's Pain getting a very early advantage, and Maverick being off the table is a pretty big loss for Team 1 as well.
I feel like maybe you should have just played Buck or Sledge again. that was not the most helpful hole to open right there, and just being stuck in one place, that's why they say it's C4 is a counter, right? Because the way you're standing in place doing your job. So, well played by GCR, great initial kill, and that's going to give them a chance to maybe lock this up with that 4-1 advantage.
And as I was saying about Dokkaebi, have those phone calls go off, send in a couple concussive mines from Hugzord, and then have iBlacks just sprint right in, and that's the makings of a very good lockdown attack. But we don't know if it's going to come. It'll have to be soon, 45 seconds remaining. 9XT at the bottom of blue spies the Zofia of Hugzord, and all the phones are going to ring away. So there you go. The onset of this execute as Dokkaebi sends out the very first lifeline, but it doesn't appear that much of Pain will try to quiet these phones. 2 flashes go in, and 9XT is going to be pressured, and look at this from above, but GCR is there to get one. Ion with the C75 will get him in revolts, takes out Ion. 9XT is just feeding everybody in. They're so distracted with the clash that they don't see the rest of Pain circling and waiting to try and take them all down. What a magnificent hold from Pain around the operator with the defensive shield. We'll switch sides with Pain walking away 4-1 on that first half.
Well, if anyone was wondering how to use the new operator, 9XT's been holding a 5-round masterclass on how to do exactly that. So, obviously can't do it on the attack now, although I suppose he could play Montaigne if he wanted to go for a similar role. But nonetheless, Panico might try his hand here, as they're going to start on cash rather than church, but they're at a pretty big deficit. We saw something similar last map, and that it ended 6-1, and it definitely could be the case here. But as you mentioned earlier, this could be pretty defender-sided, and of course we saw that from Pain, but I doubt Team 1 are out of this yet. I have a feeling they're going to be able to at least get one more round, if not more than that. 9XT, though, is still the one to take over the 6th pick. He does like shields, obviously. Maybe we've got the makings of the Latin American young here, as he's going to pick. He does go to the... Wait, pick an operator.
Jackal at the last second.
Yeah.
So no Montaigne being there. How much mental games go into these 6th pick is a very good question to ask a lot of these teams, especially with 9XT not showing the clash on Pain Gaming. Instead, changing at the last second in the 6th pick on that last defense. Could have possibly seen a Capitao 6th pick from Team 1. Wasn't in the cards for them, but the Capitao is a pretty decent counter, as was mentioned, and probably Clash's hardest counter with that asphyxiating bolt or the flame arrow being used against her. So.
Well, there's a couple of North American teams that specifically bring Capitao pretty much every time anyways, and never have the 6th pick to it because they're just very good at using it.
You know, Rogue does run Capitao about half the time. SK Gaming runs Capitao an awful lot, and I mean, pray for the teams that run Clash against them, because they likely got a strategy with that asphyxiating bolt used for that AoE denial, but you can possibly even use it to secure a kill on one of the defenders at the same time, which gives you a major boost for your ability to get that plant down and fend off the remaining defenders. But Team 1 will go on to defense, and if we see the way that Pain played as any indication, the defenders should have a pretty significant advantage with the way that these bans went down, or just simply Pain is eating Team 1's lunch. But I mean, 60% of people thought that Pain was going to walk away from this. 9XT has been so pivotal on this team as he's been able to drive, or try to draw all the fire away from the remaining members of Team 1. It was an excellent job. I mean, like you said, a masterclass of 5 rounds on how Clash plays out. Can Panico be able to put that mantle on and carry the said mantle? Well, not no. Panico's being used inside of Garage at the moment on this Clash, so similar to what we saw at 9XT.
Well, he's going to be providing a lot of intel, but he doesn't seem to be playing it very aggressively and kind of pushing back, somewhat defeating the point of playing it. Usually you're going to play someone up in the catwalk anyways to be able to peek down through those cracks, so he's not adding a lot of extra value other than bait at the moment. as opposed to 9XT, who we saw playing downstairs, actually playing very aggressively, even against the attackers on both sides. But the round still has a lot of time to go. We are actually seeing our first mute as well. A mute and a bandit here, so that means double C4s as well as double denial of breaches. It's going to make it a lot harder, but they brought both hard breachers on Pain, something we did not see from Team 1.
And only one direct anchor as well on GDN and playing the smoke, as no Maestro is going to be used. So this garage is basically just going to be anchored down by Panico, and he's going to be the one trying to slow down Pain from getting into the building. 9XT has taken some damage, and that's really all we've had for encounters thus far, is there's only a minute to go. So 2 minutes down, great time management at the time being for Team 1 to be able to slow down the attack, as Pain Gaming still seems to be thwarted by that clash inside a garage.
Yeah, they are taking a lot of time on this execute. They at least got control of the lounge downstairs, but as you saw at the clash, pushing it. 9XT, though, with the first kill on the Hugzord, it means Jaeger's down. That's not going to be a huge difference in terms of the stack here, but looks like he might still be doing his job potentially. Diffuser, though, being dropped and finally picked up, but at least they got the Panico out of the garage, but in the meantime have already rotated.
Ion gets felled, and it's once again Pain in the driver's seat as they're trying to get this clash at the top of the stairs dealt with. GDN will tag up and toss out one of those toxic babes. A flash will go in, and whether Clash will be able to see around that or not, we won't know. GDN trying to hold things down at the top of red as smoke goes down in front of Panico, and this could still be a very winnable situation, but Revolts is going for the plant. Clash will drop her shield and will rely on the Hibana there to stop her. But no, there's no coverage. GDN is last one alive, but Pain will just swarm in. Very, very close. Almost Team 1 being able to hold that one off, as the Hibana making great work of both the Type 89 as well as the Bearing 9 to secure those final 2 kills, along with the aid of the Buck, and that's match point. We've had a very fast day in the 6-1 in that Black Dragons nip game, and we are now looking at a possible repeat here, as long as Pain can walk away with a win in this round.
Honestly, the biggest flaw that I could see in that attack was just time management. That was a pretty good execute. I mean, they got a bit stalled out in terms of dealing with the clash that was playing up in top of the Catwalk garage, but they forced Panico to rotate by playing a different side. They took control over Lounge to attack from below, and doing so brought that Panico clash all the way back over there to try and push it. Unfortunately, the smoke wasn't being very effective either, having to deal with trying to throw smoke canisters over the shield and being unsuccessful in doing so. You saw it hit the shield and end up on the ground. Just a bit of misplays there from Team 1, along with a good execute by Pain. That was down to the wire, though, trying to get that push and just fragging out at the very end. Working out for them. Whether or not Team 1 can get a round or two here, I'm feeling like this is looking very Pain favored right now, outside of just the scoreline.
Yeah, I mean, and this really gums up the stats too, right? Because I mean, we'll look back on the Black Dragon nip game on Bank, and we'll try to use it as justification to say, oh well, Bank is more defender favored, it's more attacker favored,
right,
etc. You'll look at the T1 Pain game that we're still in the midst of, and if Pain does end up winning at 6-1, then you got 4-round victories for the defenders, and then that would be 3-round victories for the attackers, given that T1 won 1, and then Pain would have won the previous round and now this. So it kind of throws off any semblance of like normalcy with these maps and what we expect out of a pattern of behavior with defense or attackers.
Brazil tends to reverse that, though. When this map was very attacker favored, Brazil would tend to win defense, or Latin America rather. It was just one of those things. They tend to play it very differently.
I mean, we could say it is Latin America, but there's only Brazilian teams, so I think it's fine to say Brazilian.
I just wanted to be. It's not really politically correct, but correct to
Latin
what we
America
call.
as a region is larger than just Brazil, but the Latin America region in Rainbow Six Siege is solely Brazilian teams. So I think there's I think there's some justification there in you saying Brazil. These are Brazilian teams.
But either way, I feel like we try and encourage teams not to roster swap to fix problems. But lately, I'm feeling like singing a different tune. It seems like roster changes seem to be the way to go, especially when it's just one player, and that seems to be the player that you've needed for whatever you were trying to do. Because this is working out very well. 9XT playing a good Jackal even last round. We see. I think he got the initial frag as well for his team. I'm not sure if he was really playing necessarily an entry frag kind of role, but he still was the one to get that initial kill. So he's being a very big impact player, frags or not.
I mean, the whole concept behind dedicated entry fraggers has fallen by the wayside a little bit. You've usually got fragging operators with good gadgetry. So if you look at the lineup of Pain right now, the assumption would be that 9XT is probably going to be your go-to because he is the one gadget that you can lose and probably not sweat it that much. But at the same time, we've seen Zophia's entry frag before.
A lot.
quite a bit because she's got great killing potential with her rifle. Halfway through round number 7, and this is match point in favor of Pain Gaming. They have had a pretty firm command on this game, all things considered, and will continue as GCR finds the very first kill before iBlack's is there to trade it off, so GCR will not last that much longer. Trying to establish a crossfire on this clash will be both 9XT as well as the Zofia of Spawns, and there it is, 9XT just going in, and they clobber the shield of Panico. So take notes, kids, because 9XT has been the more successful clash through 2 games thus far. We also find a 4v3 in favor of Pain, and they're in good position to close this one down.
It was good to see the good Clash player counter the other Clash player as well, showing how it's done.
You know what I just did, Devin? I just mashed the idioms. I said close this one down. I should have said close this one out or shut this one down.
I'm okay if you close this one down.
You know what? I'm very critical of Michael when he mashes the idioms, and I just did it myself.
Yeah, I know.
Equalizing will be GDN, the Ella getting the headshot kill onto FK1, and the Buck will be silenced inside of Bar. And now look at that. GDN using the drop hatch to rotate back to site, being tracked by Spawns from above, but they're going to have to hustle as 9XT will find Hugzord. Hugzord has not been able to get a kill onto the board so far today. iBlack's with very low HP as the Valkyrie playing around the boxes, and what little is left will be 9XT picking up his 3rd kill. GDN is last one inside of Church, and he's got his work cut out for him. The Scorpion's a very powerful gun. He'll dive behind this bar. He'll see 2. Can we see anything happen? No, GDN. No luck whatsoever as Revolts gets the last kill, and it is your second 6-1 of the day. Pain Gaming will walk away with this one. 60% of you were correct. A hail of bullets. GDN losing his life.
A little bit of a slow attack, but it doesn't seem to matter because at the end they'll just kill everyone. They're not needing to get the plant down if they just kill everyone first. I mean, maybe it's a little scrappy towards the end, but overall, Pains executes while Team 1 had opportunity to be able to stop them in terms of time management, like I said, delaying them long enough. They're not able to do that because the map control being taken towards the end of the round is more than enough to push right into them to where there's nowhere to hide at that point, and there was no roamers left. They're clearing very quickly. Similar to Vitality, but I would say a little more aggressive than the way Vitality tend to play. They played a lot more droning. It seems like they're doing a lot more just kind of coordinated map control coming out of Pain.
Yeah, I mean, Team 1, when you look at their 5 rounds on attack, one of the biggest issues, and I know that we said his name repeatedly, but 9XT has got to be the most impactful player in that entire matchup. Number 1, he ties for most frags, picking up 3 kills on that round in particular as Jackal to finish the day with 8. But on top of that, on defense, not only did he do a very adept job of drawing fire from Team 1 and letting the rest of his team clean up those kills, but he also was able to put that shield away, pull out that 2-round burst SMG, and take the fights himself and walk away with a handful of kills. So overall, that's as pretty good of a debut as you can expect from somebody here entering into a team that really needed a shot in the arm, as they did sit in 6th at the start of today in the standings.
Definitely a good way to go, and I think that is going to make a big difference in Pain. I mean, hopefully they can continue with 9XT playing very well going forward, but I got to imagine in the future matches, Clash is going to get banned against him, which is going to be something that impacts, I imagine, how some of those future defensive rounds go for this team. But nonetheless, it's a good boost to their standings, right? 3 points is a lot in this system versus a tie or a loss, so that is definitely going to help. As we know, the top can get very, very competitive towards the end, so they might end up a team towards the middle of the pack, depending on how things go at the very top.
This was a map that Pain walked into with not a very good record on Clubhouse, so to be able to emphatically shut this down, and I'll use the correct idiom there. Shut this one down. It's a bit of a surprise to see them do as well as they did. But yeah, Clash obviously seems like it'll probably be a targeted counter ban.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a decent operator just to ban, you know, outside of whoever's playing it. Yeah, and that's exactly why a lot of teams have taken the time to ban Clash, because you need a set strategy to deal with her, because that one round in particular, the final defensive round for Pain, T1 swarmed her with 3 separate bodies and then 2 bodies, and everybody died. And you know who lived? The Clash.
Time and time again. I think he died maybe once or twice on Clash, and that's it. The entire 5 rounds.
I like the name The Clash, of course, with London Calling playing there on Clubhouse, so we'll see what Pain does in the future as we move on. But now we actually have FaZe versus Immortals next up for you. I'm not wrong this time, I promise. But we have a break to head to first. Then we'll come back with our final matchup of the day here on Week 8 of Latin America.
Stylish on the outside, savage on the inside. Legion by Lenovo.
We saw Clubhouse so far, and those were both good maps, but they seemed very one-sided. So maybe the map we get this time will be a little more balanced between these two, but hard to say. We are going to lose Consulate first again, so maybe Bank will be next. Nope, Clubhouse. So definitely not going to see a repeat of that.
So you also have Oregon and Villa blocked out, as we'd said earlier in the Black Dragons Nip game. Villa was played last time with Nip, so Coastline now gone, and it's going to be Border versus Bank. You're right. Maybe we'll see Bank. Will we see a repeat of a map we already saw today? Survey says no.
All
We're gonna
right.
go to Border. All right. So
Well, this should be especially interesting because last time these two teams played each other was on Border, and it was a 5-5. So speaking of balanced match. But at the same time, the roster change and the lower seed, that's been the go-to thing here for today. If they can pull it off, that'd be great, so they could finally take the map. They have had a good track record on the map, though. FaZe have done very well on it. They played it one other time during the season. They 6-1'd Ninjas in Pajamas on it, and Immortals have not played it otherwise this season, except for the one match against FaZe. So the survey says, as you mentioned, that this goes to FaZe for a variety of reasons here. But Immortals are the higher one on the leaderboard, so statistically, they should be doing pretty well in this.
both Immortals and FaZe had a bit of I would say, a disappointing showing in Paris. Both teams failed to advance past the group stages. Of course, FaZe was in that fabled group of death.
Yeah.
Rogue, Secret, FaZe, and Orgless, who have a new org. They're no longer Orgless, but we will see tomorrow, so leave you in suspense for the time being. FaZe failed to advance, and of course, Immortals in that group as well with, was it Fnatic? No, was it Immortals' group was, oh man.
We just came off Montreal, so I've lost the memory of that group.
I've lost the group stages in my head.
Well, I'm sure you can look them up online.
Oh, Immortals was in EG, Element Mystic, Millennium's group.
That was a fun group as well.
That was a fun group, but you've got EG and Millennium in it. That's going to be tough for you to get out of, and you know, I don't think Immortals had all the success that they were anticipating. They went out pretty early on. In fact, they were actually the first team eliminated in that group stage.
Yeah.
Now, as we're just a couple seconds away from getting into the action, let's bring up our community vote slider down here.
You guys were right last match.
So far, they've been right every time. The underdog's getting a significant boost, and this is the most definitive of all of the community votes thus far. Is 72 for FaZe Clan and Immortals, with 20% to 8 for a draw.
Well, they read into the pattern as well. Assuming it continues, they will be right for a third time, and that even makes it even more of a hat trick, right? Than the community's part of it. Wouldn't that be something?
Well, part of why it's called a community vote is that because it's fans a lot of times voting. You know, FaZe as an organization has quite literally millions of fans across YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, social media, etc. It's one of the most recognizable of all the esports orgs in the whole world, as they have a huge presence in a number of games. Not that Immortals is, of course, no slouch, but Immortals is a newer org. You know, they're now their most notable team at the moment, which is owned in part, I believe, by the Immortals ownership. I can't be exactly correct, is MIBR right now, but not competing under the Immortals moniker, if I remember. So there you have it. But both these teams also have a team skin in the game, and of course, Immortals. Very much an org that is growing very, very quickly, and I'm sure that they're very proud of how successful their Rainbow Six team has been. Of course, they were rocking those beautiful gold jerseys, those gold and black jerseys at Paris. But Immortals, if you play Mira, Immortals' skin is on the Vector.
You're never going to see it.
She's always going to be banned, so.
Sorry. But I think FaZe is on the Type 89, right?
The Type 89, so if you
very
play
likely to see
Hibana,
that, yeah.
there you go. So Hibana's primary weapon is your FaZe clan skin, and your primary weapon for Mira in the Vector is going to be used by
Keep an eye
Immortals.
out for those.
Nip also, we saw earlier in action, Black Dragons, Team 1, and Pain don't have any weapon skins, but Ninjas in Pajamas has it on Glaz's OTS. It's his sniper rifle. And don't forget, Black Dragons got a team charm not that long ago. Remember, they announced the Black Dragons team charm. So
That's right.
even though they might not be in the pilot program, you can still support Black Dragons, or well, you could have. It's not available anymore. But you can still represent Black Dragons if you do happen to have that.
I'm sure you can still just PayPal them money. I'm sure they'll take it.
Who, Black Dragons?
Yeah, why not?
You just want to PayPal money?
Yeah, if you can't buy the charm.
Don't listen to them.
All right, don't listen.
Don't listen to me.
All right.
But yeah, Immortals and FaZe available. And of course, we were speaking earlier on this revenue sharing agreement. So money that is raised from the Pro League sets. So, for example, the most recent Pro League set was the one that had what? It was Legion, Capitao, Echo, and there was one more that I'm forgetting. But that was the most recent set for Pro League. And, of course, most operators in the game currently have a Pro League set, which is those white, black, and gold trimmed weapon skins.
Those are good looking.
As well as your operator skins. Now, you can buy those. They're still available. And the current set is going to expire somewhat soon. So if you want to take advantage of it, go ahead. Buy it in the store. Some of that money will go back into funding the prize pool for the 6 Invitational. That is our biggest event of the year, always usually located in Montreal in February. It does appear to be set back to in Montreal. It'll be February 11th to 17th, if I remember correctly, or 11th to 18th,
right.
somewhere in that window. Tickets should be going on sale sometime soon. No idea when, but hopefully soon.
You gotta snatch them up fast. I think, if I remember correctly, those went
They
pretty
sold out
quickly
very
last
quickly.
time. Yeah.
Yes, they sold out very fast, as did Paris is selling out very quickly. I don't know when, but we'll see. At some point they will go on sale. But at least the date is known for you in February. As well, the team skins. It's a revenue sharing program, so money goes back to the teams and into the players' pockets. And then some of that money also goes towards the prize pool at the Invitational. So it's very likely that we could see that number continuously push up into the hundreds of thousands. Ideally, even possibly break 1 million would be really nice to see, to be by far and away the largest prize pool that Rainbow Six has ever had in any capacity.
It certainly doesn't hurt that the guns look nice, too.
And the gun skins are absolutely beautiful.
I mean, they're only for one gun, but because of that, they put so much attention to detail on the one gun they did. So I know it's like, oh, why are these universal? Because of that, right? Because they made them look so nice on each gun. And I'm not saying that to shill it. I'm just saying, like, I like the way they look. Very nice gun skins.
Yeah, there's no directive here for us to shill, as you said, for this kind of stuff. Like, I'm not astroturfing for Ubisoft by pretending to just be a fan of these skins. They're absolutely gorgeous. I purchased every single skin on the TS. I actually haven't played Grimsky, to the best of my knowledge, since it actually launched.
We've been zooming around.
Because we were in Montreal, and then before then I was doing a bunch of stuff for family and friends, and then, come back here. I haven't even set up my computer since being home, so I haven't even had a chance to log in, but I will be purchasing every single one of them because those 10 skins, once again, go back to the players, go back to the orgs, go back to the Invitational prize pool, and that's a great way to support esports here. So both these teams in action. Hopefully, if Mirror doesn't get banned, we'll see both teams rocking their
Yeah, we missed the Glass earlier because the ban was unfortunate. That's
no, we Psycho played Glass. He died early both rounds.
That's what it was. I was thinking of the previous one. Yeah.
No, but you did get to see a number of players on NIP, especially Julia, were running the NIP charm. So the other cool thing is it's not just weapon skins. It's also the fact that there are universal charms. So all 10 teams, for 600 Rainbow Six credits, they're capable of buying the charm. You can run that charm on any gun. So yeah, you can't run the gun skin on a weapon that's not, the respective weapon, but you can run the charm on just about anything.
Just make sure you get the bundle. I had someone tell me earlier today that they accidentally bought just the charm and didn't realize there was a bundle. And then they were like, oh, no, I got to buy the skin separate.
Yes.
So get the bundle. It makes it easier.
A good way to support Pro League, a good way to support the teams, and a good way to support the great people who worked on all of this. So let's look at FaZe versus Immortals. So Border's going to be the map. The last time they met here, they tied.
Yeah.
5-5.
But there's no overtime, so there's a chance that could have easily swung into either team's favor had they had more rounds, in theory.
Right. So we'll see, is a team going to be able to take a W here? Because if there's a win, and this is very similar to Black Dragons versus NIP, Black Dragons versus NIP tied the first time they played each other. And then Black Dragons wins this tiebreaker. So if at the end of the season, Black Dragons and NIP finish with the same amount of points in 7th and 8th, NIP will be the one who goes to the auto-relegation spot because Black Dragons has the tiebreaker in hand. So think about the importance of these matches.
Yeah.
Now with FaZe and Immortals, with Immortals in 2nd and FaZe in 4th, that's striking distance. If both of these teams finish tied in points for 2nd,
that determines who goes to win.
Then this possible game could be determining who ends up getting the tiebreaker to go to land, because first thing you take into account is who won the most matches against each other. Then you move to the round differential. Seems pretty sensible.
Well, let's hope they don't just tie each other again. Then it'll make it so much harder to calculate if they do.
Well, then you just move to the round differential, right? So at least then you have that number, and then you go from there. But FaZe has been pretty successful on Border overall. So 6-1, defeating NIP earlier in the season. So that was a pretty good performance from FaZe. 6-2 over Black Dragons, who are also now known as NIP, but they had to go under Black Dragons in BR6 this past weekend. So just a couple days ago, FaZe picked up a 6-2 victory over the team now known as NIP, who were competing under the Black Dragons.
And to be clear, that was still with Gohan.
So they still had Gohan on the team. So we have not seen how they've done with Yuna on border.
But we know they can play well with Yuna, these guys. So
I mean,
in terms of
we
the
should
individual
hope so. They played on them, like I said, with Santos Dexterity, not Black Dragons, as I said earlier. They played with them with Santos Dexterity. Then FaZe also, we got a big snippet of border with FaZe in the Paris Major. They defeated Orgulus 6-3, en route to Gohan dropping an insane amount of kills and blowing way past double digits, and then falling to Rogue 2-6 on this map. And that was all she wrote for them to be able to see there against Rogue in that particular matchup. So FaZe has only lost it once that we can see here. And
thinking about it, given the fact that this is border as well, I think we're very unlikely to see Immortal skin.
I would imagine that Mira is going to be 100% banned here. I will be very surprised if they're not.
Well, not going to see phases either.
They banned their own skin.
Waited. Come on, guys.
FaZe will ban Hibana, and that's the Type 89, who will not be available, and we will see none. If Immortals ends up banning Mira, well, come on.
What do you do? Don't you want the prize pool to be bigger? Either way, Lion.
No representation,
right? Oh. Just let it happen next time.
But there goes Lion.
Yeah. So the fourth, I mean, this is very likely to be the Mirror, right? So then the fourth one is that going to be the Echo? You think, because that's typically
Echo or Maestro, I would imagine, probably.
But
that's
Clash
what we usually see.
Could be sneaking in there as well. Nope, it's going to be there right then.
So Immortals will ban out Clash, which likely means that forces FaZe to ban out the Mira. But I mean, it's possible that we might not see a Mira ban here. That would be pretty impressive. But
I got to say, Clash being in the game as
Vigil.
Well, okay, I was going to say it's been a big boon for Echo players, but all right. Well, we will see at least one gun skin.
Vigil is very strong on this map, so for a couple reasons. Number one, you can roam so well on border and be able to just simply keep the drones from getting to you. First things first. Yeah. But also, Vigil has a height to his ERC, his cloaking device. So because of this, you can be underneath a floor, and they'll think that you might still be on the same floor.
Yeah, there's not 3 floors on this necessarily to do the kind of in-between sandwich sort of thing, but it's still 2 floors. Still very effective on that. Ying, a common operator banned on this map, and I imagine you're going to see why. But this is not necessarily the conventional bomb site starting on Bathroom.
Yeah, I was just about to say the Bathroom site is an intriguing one, but I mean, they've got the tools at their disposal. You need a bandit to be able to keep that wall on East Balcony. You also got to keep the castle there to castle off archives upstairs and also castle off potentially Bathroom. Like, a lot of teams will use their castle in that specific way. So this is looking to be, at least on face value, FaZe setting up in a similar manner to what we've expected.
Well, now, dropping the Jaeger, though, could be a little bit of a mistake for them because they've, of course, got the grenades from Navis on the Buck. They've got the Candelas to worry about. They've got Cyber's Lifeline grenades. Looks like, unfortunately, we might have to remake already. Starting off similar to our first match today.
Well, both 6-1, so, I mean, we're still well ahead of schedule.
It's true.
We are very, very far ahead of schedule as to what's to be anticipated. Actually, well, this match was supposed to start at 3 a.m. our time, right? And it's, or 2 a.m., I guess, technically? If you suspect that a match goes an hour, 12 to 1, 1 to 2
I think
to
it's
2.
usually slotted about an hour.
Actually, we're a little bit behind schedule.
Oh, it's probably because of the long start on this match.
Could be.
All right, you guys have to play it the next time.
We're a little bit behind schedule, too.
All right.
I mean, those numbers are, there's some give or take there, right? Because
obviously, buffer.
Going to a 5-5 after all the operator pick phase ban, waiting for teams to get in the lobbies, go through map bans, etc., usually takes a little bit longer than an hour, typically. So, but the one thing is that with the remake, at least we know what the operator lineup was. We know they have to go to Bathroom Tellers. And if the drones manage to drone them out, that's a pretty valuable insight into where
catching the Echo as well,
right? Yeah, and it's like they see that there's an Echo possibly. They see that where the site is on Bathroom Tellers. This is a lot of information that Immortals now has to start things off, and they're going to take this time to go over that. So teams on defense need to go back to where they were defending. Teams on attack have to go with the same operator lineup. So Immortals now, while this game gets reset and ready for us to start fresh, Immortals knows where the site is. Immortals knows what the lineup is, and they can use that time to plot their attack routes. And maybe even they might have seen an operator or two setting up in a certain position. That castle barricade went down right away, for example. They know that there's going to be a castle, if they droned it, of course. This is all speculative.
Yeah.
There's the double doors leading into East Lobby. You know that there's a castle barricade that possibly gets set up there. All of this information that Immortals has means that the conversation that they have when they get into the game can focus on other things.
Not to mention, they didn't get a chance to get to the phase where they could have possibly spotted all the attackers. To be fair, though, they were all revealed and there was no 6th pick from the attackers, I don't believe. But they don't know that.
But they don't know that.
They're right. So, and the reason I bring that up is while you have to pick the same bomb site and the same operators, you can change your setup. Because there's no rule of forcing you to use your castle barricades a certain way or your reinforced walls a certain way, your ADSs. You can set it up differently if you see an operator that you know you need to deal with. In this case, they might be thinking maybe we do want the Jaeger because they didn't 6th pick any of those operators that we would have been stopping with that. I mean, they do have the Capita, which is, of course, not going to be dealing with Jaeger. But nonetheless, the advantage here going to the attackers, as you pointed out, very, very rightly so. Yeah,
I mean, and Immortals already should have an advantage being the higher seeded team, being the fact they have played better than FaZe over the last little while. Yuna, this is weird because it's like Black Dragons and Pain both make roster changes. They come in and they play very, very well, but usually there's a bit of an adjustment process.
Yeah.
So, you know, FaZe might need to work some things out because Yuna's a great player, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't necessarily come equipped with the same fragging potential and ability to carry an attack or a defense with a high amount of kills the way that Gohan is.
Well, and also, I think there's something you mentioned earlier that really factors into it. They replaced the IGL. That's a much bigger thing than replacing a fragger or a support player. You've replaced what can be sometimes the core of the team, just straight out ripped out its little Iron Man power heart, shoved the new one in, and hope it works.
Yeah, I mean, also keep in mind, though, that Mav was doing a lot of IGLing as well. Mav had a strong voice. He was doing some calls for FaZe. And, you know, and you've also got Cameraman, who's very talkative. Moringa and Astro are not exactly the most vocal members of FaZe, so not really a surprise to see them not shouldering, you know, some of that load. But you've got Mav and Cameraman, who are both extremely talkative. I wouldn't be surprised, now that Gohan has been sidelined on the team and benched, that or, well, taken his leave because he announced that he was taking some time off, even though his technical position is benched, to see Mav and Cameraman be a bit more hands-on with the IGLing and maybe have give Yuna some assistance there to try and prevent that boat from being rocked as much as it could be with the change in personnel.
Well, in this case, if Mav and Yuna played before, and then this might be the case where, you know, they picked him up partially because he knows he can IGL, and maybe he wants to take some of the load off himself as well, picking up someone he thinks maybe can IGL better than Gohan did. Maybe he doesn't need to support as much on that, so that could have been part of the reason for that pickup. But that will be a shift in IGL style, even if they know each other, even if he can communicate, here's how I've been IGLing to support Gohan. It's going to be a change in style. It's going to be a change in communication. Luckily, it's not a change in language, like we saw with, say, Aces on Millennium, for example. But it's still going to be a change.
As well.
Yeah, or Maka as well, exactly.
Yeah. Teams having to comm in another language, and when we say comm, it means like communicate, do their comms in another language. There's always usually an immediate impact that is very detrimental to a team.
I would say Millennium didn't seem to suffer from that, but when Aces can just kind of frag out of his mind, doesn't make as much of a difference.
I mean, but they won a lot of rounds off of the back of his play. Who knows how much
I meant
of it
the end result, not necessarily.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, though. I think it probably shifted the way that they communicate as a team.
Yeah. But, I mean, there's been a number of teams in a number of games, and, you know, you look no further than MIBR in CSGO, who are affiliated with the Immortals brand. They very famously picked up Stewie from America. Who speaks American, or well, speaks English technically.
I hope he speaks American.
Well, I mean, there is English and then there's American.
English dialect.
So, I mean, it's like we say, you know, you speak American. He speaks American. He doesn't speak Portuguese. So that forced all of MIBR to have to change their language, and they had to comm in another language. But now they've also picked up Tarek. So they haven't been the same team that they were when they played under SK Gaming, just to use probably the most famous and most recent example in any game outside of Rainbow Six. And then you look at Rainbow Six, and it's like Mocket have changed from French over to English now.
Yeah.
T3H changed from German over to English. They're competing in EU Challenger League. You know, Penta has always been a team that's been able to communicate in English because they are such a diverse roster of players from all over. And now, You've got Millennium joining the pack too. So Yuna jumping in, yeah, there's going to be no language barrier there, but there's very definitely going to be a readjustment in terms of strats, in the way that these teams function and how fluid all these calls are.
Well, we'll see how that plays out, though, in terms of their first defense, where they're going to need to keep track of a lot of attackers, making sure. But they have the cameras here from Mav that I think are going to help with that to an extent, assuming they can make the right calls off of that. Unit got to make the same 6th pick, so he does not reveal. If they didn't happen to catch him on Echo, it's possible they might not have droned him out. They might not know about that just yet. But they do very, very likely know about bathroom tellers, and that's the biggest thing, right, on this attack, is they can adjust their drone positioning to save some time on their initial attack by adjusting it for that particular bomb site. They might not even need to spot the bomb site because, of course, they can't change, so they don't need to actually identify it with the drone itself. If they were going to even, they can set the drones outside of the map, potentially, where they might have had to put it inside before. So that's going to help the drone economy, as we like to call it, for Immortals.
So here we go. As you mentioned, and as we mentioned earlier on, they have to go to the site that they had shown before. They go with the same operator lineup that should benefit Immortals. Give them just a bit more time to prepare and know exactly what's going to be heading their way, or heading the way of FaZe. Kind of a bit of a blow to FaZe, though, overall, with the fact that they have all this information and
well,
surprise that's just been taken right away.
On the upside, they probably didn't catch the full setup of it, and they might not know how they play this. So it is an extra edge, but it's hard to quantify how much of an edge that is because of how little time they had during the drone phase before it was cut off.
I am really not looking forward to how I am probably just going to get roasted for the fact that I said they speak American.
I honestly didn't understand you. You were speaking Canadian at the time, so I didn't pick up on that.
I meant American English, which is a very defined style of language. Like,
don't call it Ebonics at this point, though.
Like sue me for saying like American English.
Don't say that to Americans; they will sue you.
I'm not going to say American English. They speak
right.
American English. It's fine. It's like how favorite has a U in it, but it doesn't have a U in it in American.
We are
American
efficient.
English.
We
takes
dropped
out
it.
color. You take the U out of color, and you just go COLOR. Like,
It's beautiful.
like I said, same with favorite. It's frustrating. Same with armor.
It's wonderful. We saved so many letters.
Yeah, boy, what efficiency.
Well,
1 minute in here on the first round of Border. And you got Moringa sitting inside of Workshop, watching the doorway over towards the server stack to see if anybody's going to push in. Immortals have already made their presence known here in the east lobby downstairs, and you've got Diogo as the Ying, who could be a pretty disruptive force if he's able to vault inside of Tellers. But
I think the big problem is going to be the Echo, though, in the bathroom. Because even if you go and blind everyone, it won't blind the Yokai drone.
no, and I mean, if you have Echo, he's likely playing behind those two ceramic or stone walls inside a bathroom by the showers that make him almost impossible to hit without actually going in and engaging with him one-on-one.
Exactly, and I think that's going to be the big problem for them. They do at least have the Hard Breacher to be able to open up the wall if they need to, if they could take control right here of this workshop. But it's going to be a hard fight because, of course, they're going to be expecting this push.
Navi's seeing the wall there. We had mentioned that half wall that the Echo is playing crouched below. If he does pop up for just a second, but daring Navi's to make that shot, he's going to give his position away on the Echo, though. And Cyber also, just as a side note, running that Immortals charm. So there you go. You can see it.
Ooh.
Oh, a great volley from FaZe as Moringa and Astro are there as they see Immortal sprint in to try to take down Yuna. He will get found by Cyber, but it requires them to lose two bodies at the same time. A refrag onto Mav as Diogo sprays through the wall. A good mark on a drone. Shotgun pulled out by Moringa playing in that bathroom, and it will meet Cyber right in the chest. But control for the Thermite. They'll have to watch the hatch from above. The Bandit of Astro will circle. He'll drop the Thermite, and there you have it. Cameraman pushes out to finish off Diogo. The Ying playing inside of that east lobby, and FaZe will get the first victory of this map.
Quite the frag fight there. It was interesting. We usually, so whenever we see a bathroom take, it's all about taking that top floor, right? In this case, they knew that was the bomb site, and they just went for it. They just pushed for the server side. You saw them take over the lobbies you mentioned earlier. They just took that bottom floor control and said, forget the people upstairs. We know they're going to be on the hatches. We know how they're going to play this. Well executed. I mean, it got a little scrappy, but the first person they killed, the Echo, they were right on top of that. Fortunately for him, he was a little exposed and gave away his position. It was a good refrag, though, from the smoke playing in there with shotgun, but not quite enough. Yuna, though, Maybe he'll be rocking the Immortals skin for us here, but they are going to be going to Vents now. And he is going to be the one to use the 6th pick the second time, teasing out that he would play the Echo again and not going to be doing that. But this is a good choice here, and that will help with that upstairs defense, as well as, I suppose there's ways you could use it downstairs.
Defenders, protect your bombs.
There you have it. So I'm very surprised, honestly, that Mira made it through this ban phase. I understand the Vigil ban because he can be a headache to deal with.
I feel like it's mostly just used against Canadian, as usually the Vigil bans. I mean, there has been some in Latin America, to be fair. I have seen some Vigil bans before. I don't remember which teams, but I feel like Canadian's the one that usually draws that kind of ban.
Yeah. So set up top, and like every time we play on Border, the focus is going to be on taking over archives and taking care of Fountain. That is going to be your biggest achievement as an attacker, is to be able to take out the defenders playing up there. That's where they're going to be positioned. Usually you only see 1 or 2 bodies on site. You usually have possibly one playing aggressively near site on that first floor, and the other 3 will be played up top.
Well, they are going to be starting their approach potentially downstairs if they want to go for another similar take. So these are both downstairs bomb sites, both split defense bomb sites. Essentially, you have to play people upstairs above the bomb site to be able to hold the defense of it, as you mentioned about taking office, or fountains rather. In this case, though, it looks like they are going for a topside take, which I always find is a little dangerous depending on the composition upstairs. If there's 3 people upstairs, chances are you're going to lose a few fights trying to take control of that top floor. If you can pressure both and force some of the people to rotate down, you can take control of the top floor a little bit easier, potentially, but it is risky to do so, as there is a lot of roam potential downstairs and the ability to rotate back up through a couple stairwells. But nonetheless, they are at least droning at first, getting some good positioning. Unfortunately, you can see from the silhouette, he did spot the drone and takes it right out. Now you're going to have to try and help open this wall up, potentially with that EMP. In the case of the Mirror there, he's going to have to deal with that Bandit also.
Yeah. So 1 minute is eclipsed in round number 2, as you still see some setup coming in from FaZe as they try to open up more of the wall from ventilation into Workshop. They're sitting inside a Workshop looking towards the vents wall. That'll give them an angle if you see a hop-in push from Immortals. Immortals once again setting themselves up with a composition that works very well for a rush plant, especially with the Zofia and the Ying quarterbacking that strategy. Unfortunately, for the first round, we didn't get to see exactly what Immortals was trying to pull off, as they all kind of fell to pieces very early, especially with that really fast 2-piece that was able to go down from FaZe, as Immortals doubled up on pushing the bathroom to try and take care of Yuna as he was playing the Echo. Moringa is going to be in the bathroom this time around, as the Smoke is just going to be watching the doorway with the barricade to see if anybody tries to come in and take that angle away from the defenders.
He's already taken about half his health and damage as well, surprisingly, and he's going to be very important for this defense to delay it out, because usually the take of the top floor takes up a lot of time. So when it comes to pushing the bottom floor, time is your enemy. And speaking of which, already less than a minute left and no kills outside of the damage to Moringa.
Yeah, so it's been a pretty slow round here. Cyber is just committing to this very patient play on a kill hole through the wall, trying to dare Astro to take the fight. Astro and Cyber are 2 of the best shots in all of Latin America, so that would be fun to see them try and square off against each other. Cameraman dumps out a C4, but a wise retreat from Immortals as they don't end up losing their life to that explosive. But still, the Bandit here playing on that mirror window. He'll push up. Astro gets a kill on the Navis. That was the Jaeger that was being hunted. Managed to make his way out of sight, but there's Cyber there to clean it up. And Yuke also getting a kill, as there goes a Candela off into bathroom, and Diogo's going to sprint, trying to go into the finish, anticipating that Moringa would be playing by that wall. But no, Moringa's there, but 2 dive on him. Moringa doesn't see it. Oh my goodness, Moringa with another. This man is insane. He's got Diogo down as the Ying just jumps on top of him. They'll need to go for a plant, but Moringa lines it up, and oh man, single-handedly winning the round for FaZe is the Smoke, who goes unchecked. FaZe up 2-0.
Well, that was unfortunate for them. They had a great attack, got a huge amount of kills leading into that push, but time was not on their side, as I mentioned earlier, just taking way too long to get set up for that. Good execute in terms of getting the kills at least, but you got to be set up for that plant earlier, and you saw kind of the desperation dealing with Moringa. You should have pretty much known where he was at that point. So the way he was planting, leaving himself just a little too exposed, that was I don't know, probably not the best way to execute on it, but he just had so little time left. We'll see, though, Immortal's going to be running a similar attack lineup. We're going to see no Thatcher, though. They're going to be bringing a Dokkaebi and a Twitch Although they could 6-pick off one of those. Yuna again switching to the Echo as a 6-pick, this time from Bandit. And Astro bringing out, I think, the first mute so far. But they are going to be going upstairs now, so they could go back to bathroom, I suppose, but probably not the best idea to do so soon. So Armory lockers it will be.
Attackers need to locate.
We'll see how they set up for this defense that are again, of course, going to have that mirror to take advantage of. In this case, this is the bomb site, though, where Ying is going to be a bit more effective. So we'll see if Yu can manage to pull off the first round here for Immortals.
So here we go. We'll finally go to the more sensible bomb site, typically upstairs in Armory, which is usually very easy to defend if you have a Mira available to you, especially with this Hibana ban. This should really benefit the defenders. In fact, I would say that the defense absolutely comes out ahead here with these two operator bans because you don't have a Lion and a Hibana. You lost a Vigil in a clash, and I mean, if you're FaZe and you don't run a Vigil, I mean, they banned the Vigil out, and they don't have a clash in their back pocket. They have a mirror available to them, which Cameraman has played so well on so many different maps.
Yeah.
I feel like most of Cameraman's highlights from Mira always come on Consulate, though. But Border, obviously a map that works very well with her, and her ability to hold Customs as well. Keep that in mind. Customs is a site that has seen a lot of play because you can use a Mira to anchor upstairs over top of it. But we haven't even seen a Customs go out yet. In fact, the very first Logic Bomb will go off in 30 seconds, and Diogo using that time to maybe pin down the Roamers. And of course, there's some fearsome roam potential on behalf of FaZe Clan, especially with Mav and Astro. Astro in particular. He doesn't have Gohan available to roam with him this time, but I think Yuna's been able to provide a steady hand here, playing more of an anchor and defensive role alongside Cameraman and Moringa.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't die like he did in the previous round of Bathrooms, I think he should be effective in stalling this out along with the smoke and Cameraman, of course, as you mentioned on that Mira. So between all that, this is going to be difficult taking. It looks like they are going primarily for a take onto the lockers, I would imagine. At the same time, they're looking at a lot of different areas, a lot of different hatches, worried about downstairs. But I don't know if anyone's even bothering to play down there. They're more concerned with trying to stop a push from below to potentially open up the windows even. But the fact that they don't have a Hibana makes me think they probably don't want to mess with fountains generally from the office's side, so that leads to a locker stake.
And I mean, there's a lot of teams that will run an Armory lockers defense upstairs, and they'll, you know, keep a ton of bodies on site. You'll see 5 people playing in Fountain, inside of Archives, inside of Armory, and then inside a small office. In fact, it's very rare for teams to run a body downstairs, but when you do, it's almost always a C4 equipped operator, a Pulse, possibly a Valkyrie, or even a Vigil, as we mentioned. But Vigil being banned means that it would probably just be a Valkyrie or a Pulse down there. Once again, Moringa is the first person to take any damage. Round number 3, you could hear he got hit as 2 members of Immortals getting very close to that singular doorway, and there you have it. Yuke will just peek around the corner. He's on the Ying now instead of Diogo. Diogo on the Dokkaebi. Moringa falls off, and he was integral to saving that round for FaZe last time.
Well, we also heard one of the mirrors get opened by a Twitch. Now the Candela's going out. They're getting set up for this execute. They've got full control of the Archives area. There goes the other mirror window. A lot in favor here for Immortals.
And Cyber's going to get the leadoff kill and actual execute as Cameraman has felled. He gets down with a swift headshot. You've lost 2 anchors. A rotate from Astro as he pushes into CCTV. Sees a hop in, but he cannot win the fight against Diogo, who even with the recoil changes is able to get his own kill with that SMG-12 in hand. Mav just underneath the window inside of small office. He's now worked and just wiggled out, watching to see if there's going to be a plant go down. Smoke's tossed out, and Navi's is gone. Mav going for a second. He'll pick up 2 kills on the day, and we'll see if the long angle of this ACOG of Yuna will work alongside Mav. Diffuser is down, so there will be a time limit for them to work against. A bit of a crunch here. Diogo still working his way on the flank. Looks through that open mirror window. And he'll now rotate towards hallway, towards 90, but Mav will get picked off as Mav tries to go for a flank to possibly go for a retake. It'll be all up to Yuna now. As Mav got 2 kills, 1 will go down to Yuna, meaning that's just Diogo and Cyber. They just need to hold tight angles and wait, but you've also got presence below. That's Cyber playing underneath. Pings going down from the drones, and Yuna will win that fight. But where is Cyber to go for the defuse? Getting marked away. No comeback for FaZe as Yuna immobilized and vulnerable. Getting pinged as he tries to stick the defuse. And it will be the Zofia underneath for Immortals to take their very first round.
Well, We'll see if they can keep that up, because if they can, they'll break the hat trick. If not, we could continue forward still potentially with that 6-1. Back to bathroom, though. We'll see how that will go. They seem to like this bomb site. So maybe, as you said, we didn't really get a chance to see a ton of it in action previously. Am I remembering incorrectly? I thought the attackers, meaning Immortals, had one bathroom.
Nope.
Guess not, though.
It got shut down. The last one
right.
left was the Ying after getting a kill. Diogo inside of East Lobby.
That's right.
Didn't work. And phase 1.
Phase 1.
Phase 1.
This is phase 4 now of the defense.
Phase up.
All right. They are going to bring the Thatcher again for this, which should help clear out any ADSs or anything else they need to get going on this. They have the Dilka Beat for the smoke, along with 2 soft breachers there from the Ashe and Sophia, along with the hard breacher of Thermite. So plenty of utility to make this execute. We'll see if they go for a bottom floor take again, or if they're actually going to try and clear the top at first. They also have the Valkyrie on defense to get those cameras to know when to rotate, potentially depending on how they set those up, if they need to rotate down. I imagine Thermite probably going to use at least one of his charges on the wall there. Downstairs, going on into tellers, could potentially use another one up for offices up here where Astro's setting up, if they can Thatcher those batteries off without him bandit tricking it.
All right. Amazed that we really haven't seen much of Maverick or Clash either. Both, of course, remain. Well, Clash is banned, but Maverick is not.
Definitely could be useful when you've lost the other hard breacher of the bottom.
You know what I did? I keep looking, so I structure my notebook. And originally I was told that FaZe Immortals was the 3rd match of the day.
Oh, I see.
So I had FaZe Immortals.
Yeah.
I have Team 1, or I had Team 1 and Pain as the 3rd map of the day. So I have it over there, so every time I try to do a quick glance at my notepad, I keep looking at the Team 1 Pain stats, and I just think to myself, I'm just like, yeah, no wonder. And I'm like, why haven't we seen Clash?
Thankfully, mine's on other
Clash isn't banned.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong game. Rip. Oh, that's a big old rip right there.
All right, well.
All right, onto that east wall, outside on the east balcony. Use an EMP of Thatcher to try and take some of those bandit charges away. And speaking of the bandit, Astro trying to ensure that his teammate, oh, a beautiful shot on the Cyber. His cameraman will manage to get away just in the nick of time as he drops down through the hatch and will actually get reset. So Immortals, in a situation that looked like they were going to be able to walk away with an advantage, they lose it. And even though they managed to do 50 damage to the castle, it's Astro who gets the kill. And Cyber, as the Sophia down, means that there's going to be a lot of those disruption tools for the attackers negated from the death of Cyber.
Yeah, that's a big kill, because that is usually one of the top fragging operators, or at least ones that puts a lot of hurt and pressure on to even roamers, because of the way those concussion grenades are used to find them out, as well as stun them for the additional pressure. Not to mention, there's plenty of utility left on the defenders to try and repel this push, because time management has not been Immortal's strength. And that is going to play into the hands of Yuna and Moringa, who is thankfully at full health for quite a while this time. See if we can use that to hold it off. But they do have some top floor control there. You saw Navi's there playing just above. Now they've got to turn that into some downstairs control.
So Immortals already finding themselves on their back foot. And as you said, they haven't had the best time management at all. Pretty decent time management last round, but other than that, it has not been great. I mean, they really were able to thrive off that early pick. And look, they were going to get another, but Yuna from below punishes Navi's after using that breaching round of Ashe to try and open up a sight line, and it will be used against him. So 5v3 for FaZe, and it doesn't really matter what kind of time management you have, but a whole bunch of smoke is going to get dumped into the site, as you'll see the plant of 1 on that Thermite have to fall off. 2 from FaZe, as Astro and Moringa will leave last one left up as 1. But Moringa will add to that as a second kill comes out for FaZe, and that is a very, very quick and flawless 5-0 on that round. It is 3-1 in favor of FaZe.
Well, now we're seeing why they favor that bathroom, seeming to work out for them very well, despite the fact that the upstairs was able to be taken by Immortals, not without cost, but they just could not turn that into attacking downstairs. And usually we say, you know, once that top floor is taken, the bottom will soon fall after, and it's not anything you can do anything about. But they were able to repel it very well. They were ready for that top floor take and use it against the attackers, because of course there was some predictability in where they would be upstairs. So nicely done on the execution. Here's another bomb site they have already defended successfully in vents.
Yeah, so the typical bomb site, which is Armory upstairs, Armory, Lockers, and Archives, no, we're going to see it one time, FaZe loses it, and then think, all right, well, we'll go elsewhere. And if it works, it works. Both bathroom and workshop defenses from FaZe have been successful. We'll see if they can add to their tally with workshop falling in their column again. And that would be another 4-1 split. Now, Black Dragons and Nip was 4-1 in favor of Black Dragons. Pain was 4-1 over Team 1. We're on the precipice of FaZe also going up 4-1 against Immortals. But I think a lot of this, too, is not necessarily just the impact of Yuna as a player, but I think with the way this is set up, with Hibana and Lion Band, and then the two defensive bands being Vigil and Clash, this really benefits the defenders. And Porter's usually a pretty even match, with the operator bands having an enormous impact over whether the attackers can run up the score or the defenders. This time around, Lion and Hibana are two crucial operators for the attackers to be deprived of. Whereas on defense, you've still got Maestro, you've still got Echo, you've still got Smoke, and you've still got Mira all available. That's a lot for the defenders to rely upon, and that's partially why I think the defense is doing so well.
Funny enough, though, the one bomb site where almost all those defenders really help hold it out is the one that they lost, Armory Lockers. That's the one where you can really feel the impact of many of those operators all at once on that one area. But nonetheless, they couldn't win that because the attack came from the other side.
Yeah, usually you see that those defenders do so well because you've got somebody playing at half wall or bunker, as it might be known as by some teams. Over on the Armory Lockers side of things, you usually have somebody playing on sandwich, which is the position in between those two sets of lockers by the window. Somebody in small office, but Immortals, you know, big credit to Immortals because they just went around it. And here we go. Bandit wires will be gone as this Twitch drone of Navi's finding so much value. It only has 5 shocks, but it's going to get a goo mine, an ADS, and 2 bandit wires, and it's going to go hunting for that mirror window, but it'll get shot just in time. So 4 of those 5 zaps from the Twitch drone will manage to get a gadget each. That's pretty decent for one Twitch drone. And
he was able to successfully take out 2 mirror windows last time on the Armory attack.
Yes.
So I've got to give a lot of credit to Navi's. He's doing an excellent job, but we know him as a very good Twitch player already.
Navi's is also just a tremendous player. Both he and Cyber are such good shots on their team, and part of what makes Immortals so formidable. Sounds like the Logic Bomb #1 is going to go off here with a push from Immortals as one Candela gets eaten by an ADS. That must be frustrating for Yuke. Yuke back on that Ying as we see Diogo over on Hibana. And this was the same setup that they used when they attacked Armory. It worked very well on Armory. How well was it going to translate? Well, for the time being, there's one Candela that's been burned away and only one Logic Bomb remaining, and they didn't really see any success from either of those gadgets being tossed out.
Well, credit to FaZe for being able to fall back to site without losing anyone. I mean, it's nice if you can take out some of the attackers and punish them for that top floor control, but Yuna does just fine anyways with the C4, and that is 2 Candelas not going to be thrown now.
Yeah, and Yuke also a pretty good player. Used to play for the roster that is now Team Liquid back when they were still playing under BRK, who's returned to action on this Immortals roster. He was originally picked up as their coach. So he's a pretty good hand that is now going to be cooled. Cameraman will use his C4 as he softens up Navi's, but the Twitch will come right back in. Just crouch walking away, the phone trying to be silenced, but no, Cameraman gets caught as Cyber gets one, but Astro and Yuna are there. Yuna with 2 kills, making his presence known, and there's Mav reading that so correctly. Mav with 2 on the 1 and Diogo, and FaZe will walk away for the 3rd time today with a 4-1 split after that first half.
The curse continues. Not sure how far it will go, but it is certainly looking like it is 2 rounds from going all the way to that perfect hat trick. Who would have thought we could see the underdogs coming out not just every time, but 5 rounds up, maybe every time, and with that roster change. Still possible we could see an extreme comeback here from Immortals, but FaZe are 1 round away from locking up at the very least a tie here, so we could end up seeing maybe a 5-5 again on this map. So either way, though, FaZe, fantastic play on their defenses, but now they switch sides, so things could change around. Looks like one going to take a page out of Yuna's book, and 6th pick over to the Echo. But Moringa 6th picking over to the Thatcher could, I suppose, help with that to an extent, although I would say IQ might be more of an impact in terms of stopping him. But we'll see how it goes. Otherwise, a lot of similar lineup here on this attack coming out. We are going to be starting on Armory Lockers, the one site that FaZe could not win. Let's see if Immortals can change things, not only with the curse, but also with the bomb site. finally change things around. As you mentioned earlier, they have, in terms of bans, everything in their advantage for this bomb site.
Yep. And this is where we're really going to stress test the idea that the defense is just inherently, has an inherent advantage here, or inherently better for the time being. Because I suspect that as good as FaZe has looked, and FaZe has looked really convincing on most of these plays, it's also been because they've been aided by these operator bans. Both these teams set it up so that the defense should be able to come away with a majority of wins. And I think this game is very far from over. Despite the fact that it's 4-1, I would not be too surprised to see Immortal take 2 to 3 rounds here, possibly even on defense, and really close that gap in a hurry. I think this first round is going to be pivotal, though, because if FaZe is able to walk away with a round victory here, it could be a bit demoralizing knowing that Immortals' best result would be a tie.
Yeah, definitely a bummer situation to be in, but nonetheless, it's still much better than losing any possible points when you mentioned earlier being tied up there with Liquid. It's a tough competition for those top 2 spots.
Oh, of course, and if Immortals gets 1 point here, then they would for at least a day, depending on what happens in that Liquid boot camp game. If Immortals walks away with a point, they would take sole possession of first place in Latin America. Most importantly, though, the series between FaZe and Immortals, as I said at the start before we got into the actual match, was 5-5, so they tied their very first game. Another tie would mean that there would have to go to the round differential, as there'd be no set tiebreaker between the teams.
Well, we'll see if they can hold it off half as well as FaZe did on the other bomb sites, and maybe a little bit better than FaZe did on this particular one. Looks like the take is going for an office setup here. So that is something that seemed to work a little bit better for Immortals when they attacked it as well. Reading the fact that, of course, having all the defenders having an advantage on the Armory side, they are going to go for the back take. But unfortunately, Moringa cannot land enough of those shots, although Navi's very low on health.
And Navi's expecting somebody else from FaZe to tag in onto that east stairs. Could we see one here from Navi's as he looks for a second kill? No, Mav is there to make sure that his teammate Moringa will be able to get picked up, but he is only one well-placed C4 away from a double kill going in favor of Immortals. Moringa will get back to life with 50 HP, and that's important because the Thatcher will be required on the Archives wall. And there you have it. The MP goes down, and with it the Bandit wires, and because Navi's was the first casualty for Immortals, there'll be no opportunity to put the Bandit wires back. A common theme among Immortals is their inability to land shots today, and Yuke will be a great example of that, as he hits a lot of it but can't end up getting the kill. As you see both Astro and Mav low on HP, but the mirror of Yuke, who got very aggressive behind that black mirror, will pay for it. Cyber sees a push inside of Archives and offices, but there you have it. Another miss for him, as that'll be Mav getting kill number 2 on this round. That'll leave a lot of pressure onto Diogo and One. As we're in the final 30-second stretch here, One will post up and just peek out the newly exposed hole that's created by this exothermic charge. Looks away at the last second, as you can see FaZe is just getting very, very close. Mav walks in, but no, Cameraman's own breaching charge is there, and this could turn the tide. The Thermite just playing by that office wall, looking to head into Archives for a second. His head will pop up. One will spray, but cannot connect. His Astro will be able to finish him off. Diogo finds Yuna, but last man left is the Smoke playing inside a sandwich. And Cameraman, who'd been given the team kill earlier, will have a brief stroke of redemption as he'll move FaZe onto match point with that final kill.
Well, guaranteed tie at the very least now for FaZe. And we are 1 round away from completing that trifecta. Either way, though, as you mentioned, a lot of missed shots coming out from Immortals. They might want to hop into Terrorist Hunt after this match, do a little practice run, see if they can maybe lock that down. Maybe the new recoil throwing them off a little bit. But nonetheless, that also means it's down to a lot of really well-placed shots by FaZe outside of that team kill, although to be fair, that wasn't with a bullet. That was with a gadget. And it did get a little bit chaotic around that wall. So not a huge surprise there. We are going to see a Blackbeard brought out here, so that should be... Oh, no. Moringa teasing me again for the 6th pick. Over to that Thatcher again. And then we're going to see a sneaky Valkyrie coming out from Cyber. Hopefully that will help them. They're going to try Armory one more time. So far, the only site that has not been won continued. Right on Armory again. And I imagine push probably going to come to the same side again from the back, as I would say that was fairly successful.
Yeah. Overall, yeah, it worked out quite well. And I mean, 2 things. Like I said, Immortals have really not been hitting their shots today. FaZe have just been so good at landing their shots on the intended targets, whereas Immortals have done a superb job of taking about 80% of the health away from a FaZe player, but not being able to finish up and get the rest of the kill. But also, one thing that Immortals have done is they've been a bit too hasty in how they've taken fights. Yuke right there did not at all need to peek around that mirror window, yet he did. And what happens is that Vector just bobbles over way too much, and you've got coverage from 2 members of FaZe. You lose that fight, even though you did a considerable amount of damage to both Astro and possibly the Buck of Mav, as they were both lined up in similar spots. No, you still lose that fight. You lose the C4, you lose a pretty good gun, one of the best guns at close range, just being able to chew through the opponents in that Vector. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
Cyber looked like he was actually going to go for a spawn peek over at the east door, top of east stairs, but he'll get droned out and he falls off. And that could have been a possible nail in the coffin for Immortals if they took that risk and managed to lose 1 member of the team early enough on to allow FaZe to just continuously push towards the site, knowing that there was a numbers advantage in their favor.
Well, speaking of C4, thinking about it, one of the things that Immortals could do is take advantage of the fact that FaZe's coverage of each other often means there are at least 2 members of the team close to each other in close quarters. A well-placed C4 could do a lot of damage and then not be necessarily in a situation where they can't finish the kill. So I think keeping your C4 players alive along with the smoke is probably the biggest asset they have right now. They have at least 2 C4s at a smoke, and Cyber going to take down, well, the entry fragger, so it's not as big a deal, but he at least won't be able to team kill with it this round.
Yeah, nor secure the final kill either. Navi's was prepped for a run out there, and he'll get pinched by Moringa. As you see, the Thatcher will rotate, but Cyber able to get his 2nd kill. Astro works towards the window and just is unable to vault in time as Cyber shuts that one down. This has probably been one of the better starts from Immortals. Not as good as the round that they won in round number 3 when they were attacking onto Armory, but still, they find themselves in a very comfortable position, having taken out probably the 2 best fragging operators in the Ashe and the Zofia from FaZe. But Cyber will end up paying for it, as Yuna, the Thermite, an unusual operator to find that kill at this point in time in the round, but it'll put us back at a 3v3. It'll also take the C4 from Cyber out of the equation. Still a C4, presumably in the hand of Yuke.
But that's 2 down, because I mentioned the Bandit had one as well.
Yes, Nav from below trying to do what Buck is intended to do, but Diogo oddly positioned as that smoke to take an engagement that you wouldn't expect the smoke to take. 1 minute left, and you will see the Armory wall finally get opened up by Yuna. Diogo has been down by half wall. That'll leave Yuke and 1 up, but the Yokai is still in action. So you can see it's just being played by that small office. Yuna doesn't know how to secure the kill at the time being, not necessarily knowing that they're downed, but Yuke will get finished off in 1 as the only member that is still upright. He's got great intel, but too preoccupied with his gadget, and while he's sitting on the Yokai, he'll be hunted down, and FaZe will take it as we see our 3rd 6-1 of the day. And you said it, here's the hat trick, Devin.
What, I mean, I feel bad for the losing teams to say this, but what a perfect triangle there. of
3 matches, the lower ranked team all had made 3 matches. So there's your first point of the triangle, second point of the triangle. The lower ranked and lower seeded team in every single matchup were the only teams that had made a roster change. And then all 3 of those teams won, and they were all favorites in the community vote despite being the lower seeded team.
And all the exact same score.
And all the exact same score, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1. It's beautiful when these days just happen. But Latin America also has this interesting set of, I guess, coincidences. If you remember that one day they all played Border.
Conspiracies is the correct word.
Conspiracies, all right. Well, you can call it whatever you want. We'll call it a day of 6-1s.
Either way, though, a series of good matches, though, for the underdogs.
Yes.
And a great show of force for the guys who need to work their way up the leaderboard, showing that they can do so. And that means the fight for top 4 is going to get so crazy here in the last few weeks. If I remember anything, the thing I remember the most from the score system is how often the top 4 fight is just crazy towards the end of the season. But the nice thing about the underdogs winning is that might bleed over into the top 6 even. So it's more the 7th and 8th place that are really going to be like tooth and nail at the end.
This is a big win for both Pain as well as FaZe because they played against 2 teams that just because of the way that the seeding works, they were not favored to necessarily win. I mean, the communities were behind them, but that doesn't mean that the actual score should have gone in their favor. You know, there's a certain popularity aspect to the community vote. The Pain T1 game is a bit of a surprise because Team 1 seems to have found their groove and were getting better as the season went on. FaZe versus Immortals, that's really important for FaZe to do this. Number 1, you have Liquid and Immortals sitting in 1-2. Now, there's been a bit of upheaval in Latin America over the last couple months, and we'll actually bring up the standings so we can see where things sit. Now, keep in mind, Liquid and Boot Camp haven't played yet. So there are still some points on the board. Liquid can easily retake first if they win their matchup against Boot Camp, but FaZe Clan vaulting all the way from 4th up to 1st with that win, that's really, really important.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll see Boot Camp 6-1 Liquid tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, not on the stream, but in the results.
Now, it also should drop NIP technically to 7th because Black Dragons does have the tiebreaker. So even though they're tied in points, NIP should be sitting in that auto-relegation spot, at least for the time being, which is a dangerous place for a huge org, a team that made it into the quarterfinals at the Paris Major, and just a couple months prior in Montreal for the Invitational, made it to the top 4 and made it to the top 2 in Sao Paulo around this time last year in November. So it's been a bit of a disappointing season for Ninjas in Pajamas, all things considered. But yeah, this is a big win for FaZe today, and they'll walk out of today not just really happy with the way that Yuna fit into that team, and I think he was a tremendous asset to them, but the fact that they are now in first place, waiting on to see what happens with Team Liquid tomorrow.
Well, I'm definitely excited, though, about the potential of Pain going forward. I think they had a fantastic game, and the potential Black Dragons to maybe repeat that success in the future, but that's, you know, they're going to go against tougher opponents statistically because, of course, they were going against the one that was right next to them in the leaderboard. They've got to fight uphill from here, in theory. So maybe we won't see a repeat. Maybe that'll be their only victory. But either way, the underdogs had their day today, and it was a good showing. And I think it shows that the dust has not settled whatsoever. The second half of this season is going to be just as nuts as the first.
And I mean, North America is very, very close together. Latin America is jumbled at the top. The bottom seems a bit more solidified, but the top is very it's very up for grabs. Whereas EU, which we'll see tomorrow, by the way, is looking like it's a bit more of a foregone conclusion. There's a very definite, separation between the top 4 in EU and the bottom 4 in EU based upon skill and especially on points. But that's it for us today. Devin, it was wonderful casting with you again. We casted at DreamHack Montreal, but we got to cast today, and it's always a treat. So there you have it. I'll be back again with Kickstar tomorrow for EU Pro League. We'll be back at the usual time. So see you in just a couple hours. Go do whatever you do with your lives, and we'll see you then to start things off with the return of EU Pro League. Have a great night.